All right, what's up, everyone? MK Tom Brady here. Welcome to another podcast. So I did a podcast with James MK talking about the console creation of Mortal Kombat 1 and 2, and then I did one with Shock, which kind of takes place, 99 going forward, the rebirth of UMK3. But there's a time period in between there when the Mortal Kombat arcade was at its apex, at its peak. This is where Mortal Kombat became known for everything it is today, and we have two players who were two of the best players in that era. I am now joined once again by James MK, Jimmy, and Nit, aka known as Summoning. Welcome, guys. How are you guys doing tonight?
Doing great.
All right, so the arcade scene is one that a lot of players today, you hear all types of stuff about the arcade scene, right? I mean, but very few people today that are still active actually lived it. You guys actually lived it even longer than I did. You guys were older, able to travel more, able to, even early, at the earliest points in Mortal Kombat, able to travel to this location, that location, and battle God knows how many local scenes at the highest level. So what I want to do is I want to get started. So you guys played Mortal Kombat 1 in the arcade or no? I know Jimmy said you played it first when it came to Acclaim. Did you play it in arcades also early on? And same for you, Nit. Did you guys play MK1 competitively early on, or did you guys just kind of like get into it later and then MK2?
I'll take this one, Jimmy, then you could go. So basically, what happened with me was I went to CW Post, which is you guys. Well, I don't know if you guys. You're not a Long Islander, right? You're a Jersey guy.
Yeah, but I've been. I don't know if that was around when I played. I don't think
CW
so.
Post is it's like in Long Island, and they had a like a rec room with games. And unlike the younger generation, we didn't have shit to do. But when classes ended, what would we do? So you go to like the rec room, and you'd have like this loud freaking place where people playing MK1, like seriously, like all day. So I'm like, oh, I got to get in on this, because I had class. I had like a class at 10 in the morning, and then my next class was at 3. You don't just like go on your phone. There was nothing back then. What was there? This was like 92? I don't even remember. What year was it, Jimmy?
1990, October 8th, 1992 was Mortal Kombat 1's arcade release.
Yeah, and it was like they just released. I'm like an 18-year-old kid just out of high school going to my first year of college, and I'm like, why do I have class at 10 and then I have class at 3? They're like, well, that's just how it is. Well, I would just all of a sudden I'm playing MK every day, like every day, and that's how I actually heard about Jimmy, from that arcade. It's facts. They're like, oh yeah, there's this game tester guy who plays like in these Long Island arcades, because we got good. I mean, I was owning that arcade. Like I was great. I didn't even go to class. I was like, oh my god, this is amazing. So then I met Jimmy like that year. Pretty much, we met in 92, 93, I think, if I'm doing my
Yeah, that's 92.
around 92, right? And then I show up at Westbury Nathan's. And you got this guy smoking on the arcade machine, his girlfriend behind them with this overcoat on, this like big presence. Jimmy was he was one of these players who absolutely intimidated you. You didn't want to beat him because you were afraid that he'd kick your ass. You know what I mean? That's the thing. So it was like, oh man,
Did he have the brown leather jacket on or no?
All I remember is his girlfriend had the black trench coat. He did have you had a jacket. We had
I had the leather
right?
jacket, but I didn't wear it when I played.
Right, and the cigarette burns on the sides of the machines. Every MK.
I think every arcade on Long Island in New York City had my cigarette burns on them.
Right, and I think Jimmy had a famous when he played, he would tell the security guard he's moving the ashtrays over. I remember that. That I remember. There would be an ashtray on each side. There was 2 MKs at our arcade.
Let's talk about that really quick. You said tell the security guard. Now, there's a lot of talk about how the 90s arcade scene was, and some arcades needed security guards, yes?
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of, you know what, and it's a little touch and go with it, because I know a lot of old school guys want to make the arcade scene seem like the movie The Warriors, where there was a bunch of baseball guys dressed up with makeup and baseball bats running around. It wasn't that dramatic, but what it was every arcade formed a clique. We didn't have the social media that exists today, where some guy in Ohio is friends with a guy in Atlanta and another guy in Vegas. So you formed a tight clique, and that clique ruled the arcade, that specific arcade. So when an outsider came in, it could lead to problems for, and go into the old adage of throws were bad. It was specifically a New York thing because we were broke. And that 50 cents, you wanted it to last. So we kind of took this unspoken, if you're going to beat me because you beat me, not because you throw me 3 times and then just waste my money, because I don't have any more money. And because of stuff like that, it's like a lot of times when you go to pool bars, every bar has their own set of rules for billiards. House rules. You got to hit the 8 ball on the shot. You got to at least touch it. You got to hit 3 rails. You got to call your pocket. Well, that existed in the arcade as well. So a lot of the arcades seen the tensions rising when people broke those rules. A lone guy would come into the arcade thinking, I'm going to beat all these guys. I heard about the Westbury Nathans, and security definitely became a much needed thing to diffuse it. But now, of course, like I said, outside sometimes things happen, but for the most part, it wasn't as violent as a lot of people like to make it sound.
But security was needed. My car was broken into many times there.
No,
That was the car broken into era. It's like,
but,
you leave your car outside, they're gonna break into it. They would know that you're there every day.
Except if you were driving a 1976 Dodge Dart like me.
Yeah, but I had a shitty car too back then. They still broke into it. I had that freaking little tiny Nissan back then, and they broke into it every day. It was just like that was just life back then. It was insane. But we'll touch on stuff, Bill. We'll touch on stuff.
So, Jimmy, you were playing the game early on in the arcade, right? MK1.
Very
You hadn't met Jimmy
like the
yet.
day it came out, I was playing it.
Okay, so Jimmy, you first played the game at Acclaim, right? When you were deciding, is this a whatever? And from there, when it came out on this arcade launch, I assume you also were in the arcades playing it as well, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Once I realized I enjoyed the game at work, clearly I wanted to. Ego, yes, 100%. I wanted to go to the arcade and be that guy. From the onset, every competitive player wants to be that guy that people go, oh shit, look at what he's doing.
Absolutely.
And I had known, I had found a lot of stuff that nobody knew. Obviously, because again, I was playing the game 2-3 months before anybody else touched it.
Yep.
Okay, so you guys ended up meeting up at Westbury Nathan's, but this is still before the launch of the console versions. Now, would you say
big time?
What was the crowd before the console launch of Mortal Kombat 1?
I'm gonna say one thing real quick. So you got me and Jimmy on here right now, right? To be fair, our group consisted of roughly 10 to 15 guys.
Yeah.
And when I do these podcasts and stuff, I only bring up Jimmy, because bringing up the other people is like, hey, Bob was playing with us. Nobody's ever met Bob. You know what I'm saying? So I don't even bring those guys up. It's not really fair to omit them, though. There was a diehard group of 10 to 15 of us, all different ages, all different races, all different kinds, all different, no racism bullshit. Just play the fucking game in the arcade. and try not to get your ass kicked in a new arcade. That's pretty much what it was.
And we had this unspoken, like, Nitin had mentioned on another podcast about going to Chicago and getting bodied in MK3 and being nice. When he came back, we were like, "You dickhead!
Oh yeah,
How could you be nice to them? They're our enemies."
I got destroyed in MK4 actually when I went to Diversion. But again, we're way ahead. I mean, I'll get into all that stuff.
That wasn't really your game either, right? That wasn't your thing.
No, we never gave a shit. We never cared about it. We were good at it. We were very good at it, but we weren't like, Chicago level playing every minute of every day. We were good.
So, but before the console launch, how would you describe the arcade scene? Because the console launch, which we're going to get to, the arcade scene exploded, especially from Mortal Kombat.
I'm gonna tell you this. So now that I said stuff about the people that were there, so we had a group of guys, okay, and in the arcade scene, it was something. It was like going to. It was so. And I'm gonna use. I don't sound cheesy here. It was so magical the way it was because it would be like everybody worked or went to school and they would come out at night every night. Didn't matter. Monday through Friday, weekends, holidays, fuck, we would play. We don't give a shit. I think all of us spent like Thanksgivings and Christmases playing.
I can't even tell you how many Thanksgivings, Christmas, my parents were like, "You coming over? Nah.
Yep.
One more game."
Yep. And that. So that being said, we'd have this group of collective people. We would just come there and play because we knew we didn't know who would meet up with per night, and man, we would play like 5-6 hours every night, different players all over the place, and it was fucking awesome. I mean, the feeling was most amazing feeling ever. The arcade scene was an actual war zone, but you got to be friends with people after you beat them down a few times, or people would leave, they wouldn't come back. People would walk into the arcade when they saw you, they'd leave. We have all sorts of footage about this stuff too. We had guys who would just be like, "Oh man, these guys are here tonight. Let's go," stuff like that. So it was really fun.
Okay, so just for the timeline, so here we have Mortal Kombat gets released. Mortal Kombat 2 came out before the console release of MK1. I believe Mortal Kombat 2 was June of 1993, and it was September of 93 that Mortal Monday happens. But Mortal Kombat 2 is didn't explode quite yet. So Mortal Kombat 1 comes out, the ad, Mortal Kombat, the guys running through the street, and then a father gets asked by his 9-year-old son, "Hey, can you buy Mortal Kombat for me for the Sega Genesis?" The dad doesn't know what the game is. No way to really find out what kind of game, whatever it is. He does some research, finds out what it is. He happens to work in the office of Senator Lieberman. Goes to his boss, says, my 9-year-old asked me to buy this Mortal Kombat game, and look what I found was in it. There is no real rating system. And that started the Senate hearings, and that's where we get the ESRB rating system from, in case anybody wanted to know. Mortal Kombat, ironically, is the game that started it. And Mortal Kombat was on the forefront of this. And then all of a sudden, kids started going to the arcade to play this Mortal Kombat game where they heard somebody's ripping somebody's head off. And then they also find out there's a Mortal Kombat 2, and the entire Mortal Kombat arcade world changed. Talk to me about that. When this all happened in Mortal Kombat 2. I think it was still in its beta at the time. Talk to me that one day arcade scene was one way and then it exploded. Talk to me about how it was before and then afterwards when you had to wait God knows how long to actually get a game finally.
Jimmy, you want to take this one or you want me to go?
I'll take it.
Okay.
So both of you kind of give your, because you both played.
We have different stories. I didn't even know about the home version. I have no idea. I only know arcade.
The home version. So when the home version came out, it cemented, in my opinion, Mortal Kombat is a franchise that's not going anywhere. Like I said, at Acclaim, our marketing and sales guys were super duper on point as far as using that quote unquote negativity, which obviously with the Lieberman and all the other stuff, I've always been one to believe that negativity or quote unquote what's bad is good because good equals sales.
Mhm.
And when that took off at the time that Mortal Kombat 2 came out, I think, that was the first time I really realized that, from when we originally played Mortal Kombat 1, the Street Fighter 2 guys kind of stayed in their lane. We stayed in our lane. And then when Mortal Kombat 2 came out, it made those Street Fighter players say, well, wait a second, let me check it out. We had guys like this guy, and again, everybody calls themselves, Tom Brady, summoning James MK. We used to call each other, we gave gamer tags back then based on just the person. There was no, you didn't pick your name, and we had a guy, his name was Cheap Gene. And Cheap Gene was the guy who, if you played him in Street Fighter 2, you couldn't throw a controller back then, but you would punch a machine because he was a tick throwing, did anything to get that win. And he knew the perfect spacing, everything. All of a sudden, we started to notice when MK2 came out, guys like him started to come over. We had a guy, Ian, who, we never gave Ian Goldberg, who his father was like, what was it, like the 50s group, the Platters or something, had European plates, a nice car. He jumped over onto the game. So now you started to see these Street Fighter players come on. So where we would have our 10 to 15 guy crowd, now we're going 25, 30, 40 people, sitting around us, and everybody trying to get a piece of MK2. Right. And it was definitely, the unspoken Street Fighter versus MK2, which is better. That actually transcended into the player base because, Street Fighter players felt a certain way about Mortal Kombat. Mortal Kombat felt a certain way about Street Fighter players. Now people were starting to actually say, well, hey, let's see who's better.
Yeah, MK2 did change the way everything worked at the arcades. Because so Jimmy brought up those two guys. Those two guys are still relevant. They don't really play much anymore. We still know them. We met them all through, social media again. But let's just take those two guys in particular. Those are two Street Fighter guys, Ian and Gene. They'd come over and they'd be like, MK's trash. Because when you kick the character falls. And in Street Fighter, you combo into pushing the guy on the floor. They would actually sit there and explain and defend their game. And I don't think anybody really understands what I'm saying here. Street Fighter 2 and MK guys were brutal enemies.
Yeah.
We would just laugh at each other across the arcade. The Street Fighter guys used to be like, no skill game. And the MK guys used to be like, yeah, no blood, whatever. You know what I mean? It was in every arcade wherever you went.
Yeah, I remember they used to hold the block button and go, LOL, I'm blocking. I know.
Exactly.
I know, man. I've been there.
But people don't know this, man. I mean, people don't know this.
Yeah, they don't know. It's kind of funny that when you think about it now, all these years later. So MK2 was... So MK1, what would you say was the draw? MK, people came into the arcade, but the level... like getting to super high level was few and far between. You had your group, but I'd say in general in the arcade, Mortal Kombat 1, it didn't live long enough for that, and 2, I think the fatalities, which was the first time you'd seen something like that, were pretty much more so the draw than the actual high level gameplay. Or what do you guys think?
Well, let me tell you this. Okay, I'm gonna level with you. There was no great player back then in MK1. Okay, but the main thing, and I know this might sound funny, whatever, but Jimmy, me, we had a friend, Mike Moore, Snapper Mike, we call him. We mastered the anti-air high punch. Okay, that's all when we went to the arcade, we did that to people in MK1. They had no idea what to do. So I met guys who knew how to do that. And we started our MK dominance in 1 and 2 because we were so good at the anti-air punch. I mean, I know that sounds so stupid, but you just played people who would just kick you and do shadow kicks.
It was the first time Mortal Kombat was ever in, whatever, anything, and it was people weren't really the competitive scene. It was just starting to develop. You know what I mean? So it's like some people come in and they're like, yeah, I'll just jump at the guy, and then they're getting punched out of the air, and then
But that's the thing that I'm getting to. So that just that move right there,
Made
we
Mortal
knowing
Kombat.
we could do it over anyone else. That's what gave us our motivation to kill everyone. Seriously, I know how stupid that sounds, but we just mastered it. And we paid to learn that shit. We didn't use no arcade or freaking home version. We
We
paid
would
money,
sit.
man.
We would. Well, I'll confess. When I say we, that was my second wave. My first wave was when I was at work,
Mhm.
but we would sit for hours. Hey, just jump at me. I want to get my kit. It's harder to punch Katana out of the air, or it's harder to punch, Sonya out of the air in MK1 or Liu Kang.
but you got to pay for all these games, right? I
But
mean,
it costs cash.
Right.
so
And we never
practice mode
said
was putting money
anti-air
in the
high
machine.
punch, by the way.
Yeah.
We said fucking punch you out the air. We didn't have any.
Ironically, years
fucking
later,
Neanderthal.
that punch out of the air in MK2 would be known as the death punch because it was
Right.
uppercut damage. I guess that's
I
if you would put a
mastered
name
that
on
too.
it. If you,
Yes.
yeah. So all right, so MK2 is out. The arcade crowd was when like you said, you'd be Thanksgiving, but I assume the line wasn't like massively long when you're playing MK1.
No.
No, it was. It actually. I mean, it wasn't 50 deep, but I remember. Like I said, I remember back in the days with my ashtray or my cigarette on the machine. We had a group of a friend RDA that was Richard, who was would come down with his Italian friends,
Oh man.
and they would go 10 deep plus our 10 15 guys, so you were getting crowds of 30 people, especially like with me being the quote unquote legend at the time. I just got to beat him. I just got to beat him. Kind of like the Sonic Fox did. I just got to beat him. And it didn't happen.
Right.
And
It did start with Jimmy. Jimmy was the person that everybody knew. Knew of. And that's the guy you either wanted to be friends with or beat. Do you know what I mean? Because there's only two things you could do.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah,
And you guys were playing. This is all. What arcade was this again? Just in case.
Westbury
Nathan.
Nathan.
Westbury
Nathan's in Long Island.
That's where you have to actually dig through the trenches to do that.
So you guys all meet up. You guys are Westbury Nathan's, but you guys, the era wasn't to the point where it was crew versus crew, people traveling around to beat everybody down. Mortal
that
Kombat
was
2
way before.
Mortal Kombat 2 comes out. The console MK1 comes out. Everything changes. Now, these crowds of 30 deep are now 70 to 80 deep. You lose on the cabinet, and you're going to wait an hour before you get back on. Talk about how the scene was. In my opinion, Mortal Kombat 2 was the prime of the Mortal Kombat arcade. Talk about the difference between MK1 and then MK2 comes out, and all of a sudden now you got 70, 80 people on one cabinet. Talk about that. What was that like to be there during the absolute prime, the absolute biggest moment of Mortal Kombat on the arcade?
All right, so here we go. So MK2 comes out. Now again, I've said this story before. I'll keep it short, but I went to Comac movie theater, which was in like far out Long Island. You just got to take the LIE out there. Anyway, I saw this game, and I wasn't like Jimmy was more. He worked with them. I was more of the guy who played. So I heard about it. I read about it in a magazine or whatever that's coming out. Then I saw it. Actually saw the game. I went nuts. I'm like, this got to be bullshit, whatever. I didn't even know about it. So I went to, there was people playing. I know my first character I've ever played. I played Johnny Cage because I was great with Cage in the one. I'm like, this is great. And of course, when I won my first match versus somebody, because I was kicking them on the other side, I was reversing the kick. I just figured that out as I was playing. And of course, the first thing I did was forward, high punch, and the fatality didn't happen. And I was like, oh, okay.
Oh, fuck.
You remember that? Remember those days? Like, this game's got to be fake, Like, you didn't know back then. What did you know? But anyway, bringing up the arcade, the dominance that MK2 had. After people started playing it, knowing about it, there was more and more machines. There was more and more people. Okay, we had our certain arcades we went to, and we had also heard about an arcade called Spaceplex, where we met all of our what's it called, Long Island friends out there, and there was a whole scene out there too. And this place had more machines, and it was darker and it was louder. I mean, you'd come in and you'd hear fatality. You would hear it. You would walk into the arcade was designed where you would just like you'd be like a kid going to like a movie, like a Star Wars movie. Okay, you'd like pay to get in and get your tokens or whatever, and you'd hear these arcade games like fucking so loud that you would have to like want to play this. I mean, we were so addicted to this stuff. We were older too. We weren't young kids.
No, we were 20s.
Yeah, and it was just like we need to just go do this every week. So every weekend we'd go to like Spaceplex after we'd beat all the Westbury people. We would have the arcades we would travel to. We would meet friends on the way. We had Westbury Nathans, we had Farmingdale Nathans, we had Oceanside Nathans, we had this was all Long Island, by the way. We had Spaceplex, which was out east. We had what else did we have, Jimmy? We had a whole bunch of
A
places.
million
The 24-hour
bodegas.
deli.
Bodegas open 24 hours with the cabinets in it.
Oh man, when they used to follow us home and shit. Oh man, that was some crazy stuff. We have so many stories. If we could just talk forever about how huge the arcade was. But here,
But
okay,
how
one
long
more
were the
thing.
lines on average though? Like, so MK2.
No, the lines. Okay, you'd get a game in. Okay, you'd get a game in. The thing is staying on the machine.
Yeah.
That's the thing. You'd
Yeah.
get your games in. You'd wait 10 minutes, 15 minutes. When we went to New York City to play, which we'll get into
Put your quarter
also,
up on the machine, and
yeah, we would get into a lot of fights in New York. That's the thing is, like, I had guys like Jimmy and Mike Moore with me, so we would never really get beat up at night. But we would beat the best players in New York, in the NYC arcades. It wasn't pretty. It wasn't pretty. It was bad. We'd have to, like, Jimmy once had to take all of us out of there because he's like, dudes, you guys are actually gonna get your asses kicked tonight, and we need to leave. Jimmy actually told us this, and we're like, yeah, I remember that day. That was not a good day. That was the Kung Lao guy, man. That
I mean, if
remember
Jimmy
that
says
guy?
it, you
Now
have to-
the
you
Kung
probably
Lao,
have to leave.
now the Kung Lao guy. Just a side note: the Kung Lao guy that he's talking about is the mentor to Dominion
Right.
for Street Fighter. He
That
used to
guy-
call himself Dao Sim in Street Fighter 2. He was a big Street Fighter 2 player, but like I dead ass. I think this kid was probably the first fucking fighting or first gaming cosplayer ever.
Oh yeah.
The dude dressed up with MK2 Kung Lao, had the hat, had the whole thing. It was like, it was surreal. And
That was his
that's
arcade too.
and that's where I had met Triforce for the first time, because Triforce and him were good friends.
Right.
But
We
Playland
destroyed that guy.
Playland was his arcade. He was the MK2 god, and then we went in there and took his godhood from him.
Oh, that was a crazy day. We destroyed them, man. I mean, I remember this like yesterday, and we actually had to run out of there because they just wanted to just kill us all. It wasn't arcade machines were dumped over. Their screens were punched. They punched an arcade screen that night, and the color never went back. I was like, we got to get out of here. One of them was black and white when we came in there. I mean, it was crazy stuff, man. I mean, like, okay, these are all memories from 20, 30 years ago. We all have bunches of memories and things like that. But Bill, you brought up how was it traveling? The traveling didn't really. We traveled Long Island, New York. We did Jersey.
Yeah.
But we were the first crew to actually get on the internet on IRC to go to a different state. We never heard of anyone doing that.
Yeah, that's what I want to get to. So, okay, MK2 is out. The arcade's big. You got big lines, 40, 50 per cabinet. Usually most arcades had, I think, 3. I believe. I remember my arcade had 3, and a lot of them I went to. And you'd have, like, a machine that usually was for the new players, then it's an intermediate, and then everyone knew where the better players were. They all had their own kind of cabinet. and everybody.
Oh, we didn't have that. We didn't have that.
that's-
We had We had two machines per place, and everybody could play.
And one and done. Get off.
Oh no,
Yep,
we had that, but I mean, the locals in the arcade kind of knew like we'll go over here, and the top players don't come over here because
That was a little afterwards, man. There was only afterwards where people got relaxed about it. This is what I'm
Okay.
saying.
Yeah, see,
there
I'm
was
a little
no
younger, so,
relaxed.
yeah.
There was no relaxed time. You went in to bring your A game in at all times.
If I played Nitten and Nitten beat me on the A game cabinet, I was pissed. So I went and fucking beat the shit out of the guys on the B cabinet for a while.
Right. It's like, yeah, of course you have the better players on one cabinet because they're better. The other players didn't want to wait. They just went to the other one.
Of course.
So we didn't
yeah.
have like, oh, these are the better players.
But you would put your quarter up so that when you would go back there, and then while you were waiting, you would go to the other cabinet with the shorter line. But you would always put your quarter up and then go to the other cabinet, and then somebody would say,
Right.
your quarter's up,
Right.
and then you would come to that cabinet.
Right. I mean, come on. We'd have colors for quarters and shit too after we wait so long.
Because we used to. That's how fucked up that generation was. 10 guys put quarters up, and then no, that's my quarter. Well, no, my quarter says 1978.
Oh, that's every generation, boys.
Yeah,
My
but
quarter
still,
says 1978. You look, there's 5 quarters on top with 78.
Come on. When people heard you changing a 5, they knew that's a lot of money back then.
Yeah,
Okay,
whenever you
20
heard
quarters-
the all those quarter, yeah, you already. And the thing is, arcades, what they started doing is they started putting slots 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, so people could say, my quarter's
Oh,
the
that was
slot
way
5.
after.
Yeah, it was way
That was
after.
like that was
that was
MK
3. That was
past M-
3. Yeah, that was 3.
I think it was 4.
Maybe UMK. I think it was a little before 4.
Yeah, it was like that's the thing. Like, okay, again, I know there's so much stuff. We paid to play. We paid to learn those combos. So again, I'm gonna bring the anti-air high punch in. So we didn't call it that back then. We called it punch you out the air. We wanted to see who could do that. That was all you could. You couldn't do anything in 2 and 3 except for that. Not talking about ultimate. Talking about those early games, like you
Yeah.
said. So that's what started our little group of misfits, so we say. So we got people good at that. And what we did was we showed that skill off at every arcade, and I'm telling you, I'm not making this up. We didn't lose at any arcade. We played at 30 arcades, 25 maybe. We beat everyone.
So
There
let
was
me ask you
nobody
this.
we ever lost to.
How was it back? Because I know when I got into MK2, if there was some type of money on the line and everyone had their own way of hustling, for me it was always Jax Molina, very little Liu Kang. But for fun, I would play Shang Tsung and Morphin and everybody, or I would play Sub-Zero because he was my favorite character. You know, because especially you go to like some arcades, you can pretty much do whatever you want to some of those players. What were you guys playing? Were you guys like playing the top tiers only, random select? Like we hear stories between it was all random select. So I wanted you guys' take on this because you guys were around playing competitive.
I love this question. I'll take this question. Tier lists, frame data. What the fuck?
What is that?
like we had no idea that Molina was the best character in the game. I just found out Jax was one of the best characters probably like 10 years ago. I didn't know. We had no idea. We played who we liked, and we were good at who we played. I was doing 80% or 70% Kung Lao combos to people in MK2. He wasn't top tier. He was terrible. He wasn't terrible, but he was
situational. He's situational.
I mean, just jumping.
He was still extremely mobile. He was still extremely mobile, which is something that is sorely lacking today in MK. He was extremely mobile.
They put him in a wheelchair.
On the ground. We didn't jump. We waited for somebody to jump. After a while, after you played me for a while, nobody wanted to play me.
Nobody good jumped. I tell you right now, nobody good jumped.
But even I would even get the best players to jump because we would never jump, and we were so. I played the game completely turtle. So bad. But this is what I'm saying though. We had our characters who we liked. I played Kung Lao. I always did. I never knew he was great. Actually, none of us played. Actually, one of us played Molina. I think one of us played Jax. Seriously, and we'd still win. We'd beat everyone. Everyone. There was nobody who we ever said, "Oh, you know what? This was a really tough night, guys." And this was like 10 years, 6, 7 years in a row where we never lost.
You guys mentioned the internet.
Yeah.
There was no talk of. Well, first of all, what boards did you? There were no real like boards like we have today. Where did you guys go when there was no talk of tier lists? Who are the best characters? None of that.
None of that stuff.
Just the IRC.
That was it.
That was it.
IRC.
I mean, there was alt news groups, but that was usually used for like, hey, some guy in Boise, Idaho figured out a fatality. They posted up and, nobody would really comment. Oh, okay, let me go try it. And that was it. But IRC, Pound MK on EFNet. Am I right, Nitin, with that? Is it
Oh
EFNet?
yes. Oh yes. So I'll get into the history of this. So basically, back in the day, there was AOL and Netcom. Okay, of course there was CompuServe, or what was it, CompuCS?
Yeah, CompuServe.
Yes, and there was the BBSs. Okay, so this is where it gets interesting. And this is MK3 time, by the way. There was nothing in 2. There was no internet in 2.
Oh.
There was nothing in 2. But 3 came out, and right before Ultimate came out. And I'm telling you, whoever hears this, I'd love to just get the comments as chimed in. Maybe they did the same. So I was big IRC guy because I was a big metalhead, and we would talk to the metalheads in Europe about bands and things like that. And I was like, hey, let me see if there's an MK channel, and there was Pound MK. There was a couple guys from Australia in there, and there was a few Chicago guys.
So this
That's
is
all I
what,
remember.
93?
Around.
Yeah, around 93.
And I was the one who was showing my group how you'd have to connect to, because I was using IRC just on the text based stuff. And basically, the Windows friendly generation, they would use MIRC. So you basically would connect to AOL. You just needed an internet connection. And it didn't matter if you were an AOL or if you were a Netcom. If you opened up IRC,
that's when we all took Nitin's. We all took Summoning's Netcom account. We just all used the same account.
well, actually, we took the Incredible Universe account.
Oh, true.
Yeah, see, you don't remember that either. So basically, we had a friend. His name was Wayne, and his nickname was Alf. So we had a friend who worked at Incredible Universe, and he'd be like, "Oh, I got the unlimited internet for free," and we all logged in at the same time. And by the way, when you logged into a Netcom account and you had like 2 or 3 users, your bill was like $30-$40 a month. That was like $300-$400 today. So we all logged into this, every one of us. And by the way, Steve, remember Steve, Jimmy? Steve still knows the username and password.
I don't remember shit.
It was IE, it was incredible, it was IU, whatever. He still knows. Well, anyway, so we would connect to this shit, right? And should I get into the Bloomfield story?
Well, yeah, lead into it with the.
All right, hold on. So,
you
you guys started talking to other crews in other locations this way?
Yes. So
Yes.
we went on to Pound MK, and we'd be like, we are the best players, and we'd like to play somebody who was the guts. And go ahead, Jimmy.
So what wound up happening was, it became quote unquote the bot wars, I guess you would, because the way IRC worked is you could put an operator, a bot into the room and control who you invite, basically like Streamlabs now for Twitch. So, a bunch of guys had, basically called out our bluff, as they thought, and took it, and on a side note, everybody always asks me why there's 2 S's to James MK. They took my name and turned it into a bot, which was just regular James MK.
Mm-hmm.
So when I went on the next time to go into the room, it's like, nah, man, you got to choose a new nickname. Your nickname's already taken.
Right.
So we called them out and we basically said, we'll come to you. We'll fight you in any arcade, for the ownership of Pound MK.
Right.
So what wound up happening was a guy by the name of Drew Boy at the time, told us, oh yeah, he didn't tell us Bloomfield yet. What he had told us is meet at Willowbrook Mall, because that's the arcade that was on the outside of the mall.
Willowbrook is the fun and games that has its own building, correct?
Yeah, it has its own building.
Yep.
So we went in there.
Mall,
we went in there, and we dominated the shit out of all what I would call Drew Boy's second string people that were just the stragglers from that arcade. Then Drew Boy said, well, wait, I'm at this arcade in Bloomfield, New Jersey. Why don't you come and see my A game? And at this time, I'll be honest, I was already starting to fade out of UMK3.
Was this for money at all? Or this was just for pride. Were you guys had any money
Jimmy,
on the
that
line?
that was the chip day, Jimmy.
Yeah.
That was because he was the here's the thing. That was the day they put the upgrade in, is when he called us to Bloomfield, and we destroyed, dude. We never played the game before UMK3. We never. That was the first day. That was the first. We played them at Willowbrook MK3, and then he hit us up saying we have it. We got
UMK3. We got UMK3 at my arcade.
Right.
Why
That's how
come
it started.
see us?
So Jimmy got 5 guys together. It was me. Was you, me, Mike,
me, Rich,
and Pook, right?
Snapper and Pook.
Yeah. So we jumped in his car, and I'm serious. This is no joke. Those guys were great. We didn't lose a game. We never played the game before, man. We just freaking got it.
You can't jump. You can't jump at us.
We played I remember we were playing Scorpion, man. We were doing punch, teleport, spear all day from MK2. And they never even seen that shit from MK2. And we're like, you guys are not good. You're not good. And that's when, that night is when 3 players followed us home.
And 2 of those players, well, you know the players. We called them Al the Mongoloid, or I did. But Al the God is what his name was. And then another guy that, if you ever watch the MK4 Road Tour video, he's actually got a part in that where we used to call him Red. Because again, gamer tags came from whatever we decided to call you. Red had red hair. He was a ginger. We called him Red. And then Grinch, who obviously would become a producer at NRS, Brian LeBaron, was the 3rd guy after that. So they had seen us like body these guys and were like, yo, what the fuck? Yeah. So Brian LeBaron drove from bumblefuck upstate New York to Westbury Nathan's the next day.
They actually went to the deli. They went to the 24-hour deli.
Yes.
And they followed us there. They slept in the car. They waited till we finished playing that night. I mean, we just spanked these guys, man. We just wiped the floor with this whole arcade. Decided to come back to our town. Got home 2, 3 in the morning like we always did. 3, 4 in the morning. Because it was 24-hour arcade. Found out from the guys who ran the deli. They were like Indian guys or whatever. Ran the deli. And they're like, yeah, these guys came in right after you. They played till 9 in the morning, 10 in the morning. Of course, when we'd get up, we'd go back to the arcade. We'd go back to the 20 before Nathan's opened. This was this ritual, man. We'd go play at the 24-hour deli before Nathan's open. I think Nathan's open at 10 or 11 or whatever. These guys were like sleeping on the machine trying to do the same combos to us. This is unheard of stuff. Like,
the day we pulled up to Westbury Nathan's, and Brian LeBaron was driving a red CRX, top to bottom, filled with empty Mountain Dew bottles, sleeping in the car. And, you know, he was into punk music. So he used to wear those jeans that were like 80 times the size that you were supposed to wear.
Dude, the dude duct taped a pocket that fit a 2-liter bottle. He fit a 2-liter bottle of Mountain Dew in his pants. Okay, this guy was fucking. I mean, like this is a guy who works for Midway today. I mean, I still call it Midway. That's
NRS. Yeah,
you know what I mean. Like
good old Brian LeBaron.
It'll always be Midway to me, and it'll always be the Grinch, because the Grinch, he's the guy who figured out the second reptile fatality without paying for it. So with paying for it.
And by the way, Brian actually kind of pay homage to that. He did a lot of the brutalities. I don't know if he did them in 11. I know he did them all in X. And Jimmy, you know this. There are still a lot of the hidden parts of brutalities that nobody still discovered to this day, right? So he kind of like, you know, I guess if you had to do it back in the day, people have to do it today when it's for free, right? Because if you can do it when you're paying for it, you can certainly find them for free.
But last thing about the Grinch. him. I mean, we were very good.
I love
friends.
that name, man. That might be the greatest name ever. The
We were
Grinch.
very good friends. The only thing I ever remember every single day of meeting this guy is I'm gonna work for NRS Midway one day. He
And he
said that
does.
every day, every single minute of every day. And we're like, and when we went to E3 together, I think that's what happened, right, Jimmy? We went to E3. That he met Ed that day, and that was it.
No, what had happened?
I don't remember what it
What had
was.
happened? What had happened was this, and I don't want to hash on it too much because
Yeah, I'm just wondering. I mean, we're
people
not saying
might be
you bad
watching. So basically, what had happened is I was told I could get a job at NRS at Midway, and Brian had moved out to Chicago, and he was living with Lex.
Mm.
And Lex promised him that he would help him get a job, yada yada yada. And Brian's father was a big inventor, like with cars and stuff. So he had some money. He wasn't broke. So he was out there. He was living, and he had called me up, and basically it said that he's been living out there, and this guy says he's going to help him out. Never did. At the time, Boone didn't know nothing about him. And I said, you know what? Hold on. So I literally turned around and I called up Boone and I said to him, that job you were going to give me, don't give it to me, give it to this guy.
Right,
And
that was
even Ed was like, what? That's not how the real world works, basically. I said, listen, I taught the guy everything about bug testing and trying, and he's got a good head on his shoulders. And he said, you know what, if I give him the job, you're not going to come. And I said, make it so. And he did. And, here we are, 20-something years later, he's still working there.
Okay, so you guys went. So that was when. But Brian, at this point, he didn't work to NRS till I think MK. What time period? 4, Jimmy?
4. He came
4?
in at 4.
In 4.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
So you guys were going to arcades, starting to meet up people as early as MK2.
Mm-hmm.
So talk about there's the stigma in the arcade that you were going to get stabbed or shot or whatever. For me, more in my experience, and I guess you can tell me yours, it was a lot of people threatening to fight you and stab you, but it was very rare that it actually happened. You had a lot of people who were playing the games in their neighborhoods against their friends and beating them down. Then they thought they were good. They came to the arcade and they would lose, and their reaction was, I'm going to threaten to fight this guy for beating me. But more often than not, it was just threats. It didn't actually lead
not
to...
in our arcades. In our arcades, there was machines being punched. There was machines being tipped over. There was crazy shit in our arcades.
Yeah, I mean, I've been threatened to get stabbed many times. They threatened to stab me many times.
The Long Island Joe story.
Yeah, go ahead with that.
The one that Long Island Joe says, I actually know the real story because his father's the one who I spoke to him. This is what happened. Long Island Joe never played at our arcade. He went to our arcade once. He got beat up by us. His father took him outside. I was standing outside. It was me who his father talked to. Joe doesn't even know this. Okay? And he's like, I'm never bringing my kid back to this place, period. He's like, fuck this place. This place is a fucking war zone. That's what his dad told me. Okay? And Joe never played at our arcade. He played everywhere else, and he did great everywhere else. But if he saw us, no way. He couldn't touch us, man. We played him once. We are the ones who beat him down so bad that his father said never, ever coming back to that place. You could ask Joe. Joe doesn't even know that his dad.
The best was RDA. So L.I. Joe came into our Nathan's.
This was awesome.
And he was playing us, and he had a nice little win streak going on. He was beating guys, and our friend Rich comes up, and he walks up to the cabinet, turns it off by the switch on top, resets his fucking win streak, and says, now you get to play me. And I think that's probably the thing that set off Joe's dad to be like, did this guy just? It gave him his 50 cents. Says, you could play me, but you play from scratch.
Yeah, he did that. But then they had the other two kids with the father, and they threatened the father too. Remember that? The other two kids, the twins,
I did that.
the two blonde
Yeah,
kids.
I did that during KI.
Okay, yeah, because
I'm the
then
one that told them. I told two kids. All right, now listen. This is how much of a dickbag I was back then. So these kids had to have been, 14, maybe 15. And they used to come in, and their dad would bring them all the time, and they bodied the shit out of me in Killer Instinct. But they smirked when they did it,
right,
and it was that smirk that angered me. So I basically grabbed the kids and I said, "I'm going to go kick the piss and shit out of your father."
that's right. I remember that shit. They never came back
They
either.
never came back again.
I mean, no. Okay. Yes, the stabbed and stuff. There was the biggest fights and stuff were in New York City. There
Yeah.
was threats and stuff in Westbury, but we had security there. They would always stop it. So I mean, they would always stop it. It was you could see heated stuff, and yeah, the parents and stuff wouldn't come to the arcade. They wouldn't come through the back doors. They would go through the restaurant part. So we would have the restaurant part, and they would have the arcade part. You would never go into an arcade back in the. This is kind of why arcades died, though. I think because arcades turned out to be like gang spots. You know what I mean? Like people, like where all the thugs would hang out. You know,
I mean,
and that's the thing.
they were always there. It just, I think, what killed the arcades was the prices of the cabinets versus the consoles catching
Yeah,
up.
console. Yeah.
But it again. I reiterate, while it was bad at times, it wasn't as bad as people would lead you to believe. You could go into an arcade at lunchtime and see a crowd of 20 people playing Mortal Kombat, and people not a peep at each other. And then you go in there at 11:30 at night, and that's
Oh
when
yeah.
the rowdier guys come in,
Yep.
and that's when you
Yep.
saw the
You'd
problem.
have the lunch crew too. You would absolutely. I'm glad you brought that up. The lunch crew. We'd have like we come into Nathan's and listen. Westbury's pretty packed. I mean, we were on Main Street there. Pull in. Everybody eating food and playing games, and everybody went there for lunch. And there was some serious competition for lunchtime too. And at night is when the real players came out. So I mean, we had these people. I mean, there was some violence though. There was lots of screaming. There was lots of punching the machines. There was lots of very very people who were really really good. They're the ones who were very competitive, and they're the ones who would start some shit all the time.
Yeah.
So, and it was again, it was the punch, it was a anti-air high punch that made us want to go to other arcades and do this stuff to other people. That's what it was. It was just that. So
All right,
that's it
so
for that.
at this point, arcades started to, because there were so many fights. I remember I used to go to arcades along Broadway, and the owner actually, to avoid fights because they were going to lose their lease because there were fights there every night. So they would have the sign up where they started to enforce the player rules, no throws, et cetera, right? Talk to me about when this came into play. To my knowledge, no throwing started with Street Fighter because throws were unblockable. And the people were like, well, throws are just, it became, the stigma is throws were just cheap. And that applied to then every game at the time.
Yeah.
So if you play an MK, same thing, and it was like, oh, if you throw, they get their throw back. If you throw for the win, they get the round back, and if you throw for the game, they would threaten to do whatever unless you got off the machine and give up your game. Talk to me about like what you can remember about these custom rules that players started to make up in the arcade. What are your recollection of that, and how different arcades handled it?
Oh, I'll take this one. Jimmy can go after me, but this is great. So you said this is how locked this is in my head. We didn't have a rule that said no throws. We just didn't throw because everybody knew it. Everyone, it wasn't like, oh my God, you're throwing. Nobody threw. In Long Island, nobody threw. We're not talking about Street Fighter. I'm talking MK. Okay, Street Fighter, I straight up tell you, I don't have enough. I wasn't that good at the game, and I didn't care about the game. But in MK, nobody threw. Nobody. To this day, if you guys ever watch streams that I do, we don't throw ever. Never. We don't throw. None of my old guys, Jimmy will never throw me. He will not. He'll throw when he throws me. He'll laugh because he knows it's like I'm just fucking around. We still to this day won't do it.
No,
It was
it's so embedded in us that, like, I mean, there's been times where I've played people, and it don't matter, MK9, X, whatever, and guys will run up and throw, and in my head I say I should just throw you back, but I won't do it. It's just burnt in there.
Yeah, we never. I mean, listen, everybody knew it. And this is where I'll bring up Matt. I'm gonna bring Matt up. Okay, bring up Shock. He laughs. He laughs at that. I mean, I'm like, all right, just because you laugh at it, it means that you really couldn't play us back then, because there's no. I mean, whatever he has today, we were that good or better back then, because we didn't need throws to win. We were so good. I'm telling you right now, we were so good. We never lost, and we played people who were amazing. And we had our own rules. Those were just not those weren't even rules. Those just we just never threw, and no one threw. Anybody who could play that game, walk into the arcade, put their quarter up, play you, they would not throw. If they won, they would beat you without throws. That's the thing. And we don't know if it was a Long Island. We found out later on it was a Long Island thing
Yeah.
that they threw in Jersey. Okay.
Yeah.
You know, another thing.
Oh
dirty
yeah, we
Jersey.
threw. We
Yeah.
threw.
You know, like, yeah, but that's the thing though. Like we were like, oh my god, they do that. Like, you know, it's like we were
We
even
didn't
like,
care.
yeah.
We didn't care.
Somehow our morals of throwing got tied into tick throws, which had nothing to do with anything.
Yeah,
And then it became, and I think deep down, one of the reasons is because throws did so much damage. We were very adamant about getting the most for our buck.
right.
And 3 throws and you were dead.
Yeah,
And we just said, we're not going to take that route because you don't get a good, when we would practice, we didn't go 3 rounds. We went 4. We would go to a point where, first round you win, second round I win, third round you're allowed to do X amount of hits, and then you need to let me do X amount of hits, let the time drawer out, and we get the draw and get the extra round.
yeah, we did that all the time because we paid, man. We paid for all this stuff, and it's like if somebody threw you. And you're paying money for this stuff. Sometimes it's 50 cents a game. Dude, it's a lot of loot, man. 50
Yeah.
cents a game. Damn. It's if we left the arcade at night spending like $2, $3, $4 and played like 4 or 5 hours, it's a good night. That's a
Yeah.
good night. That's a lot of money, dude. Add that up. Add all that money up and we played every night for years. Years straight.
And then
Years.
and then what we did was we infiltrated the arcade. We got each other to get jobs at the arcade so we could get the key.
Yeah, we got friends who give us the key. They'd open it up at night, and we just put the quarters in. We just like push the. We even knew how to do the credit part. Who the hell knew that as kids, man? You
We
played the
did.
game.
We,
You didn't know
we,
how. You didn't know what to do with it. When you opened the arcade up, you used to be like, "Wow, what's
I can
this?"
tell you exactly where it is. It's right.
Service credit.
I knew exactly
can.
where it was. Don't.
Because you're one of the guys who grew up in the trenches, as we say. Like that's the thing. Like if you opened that stuff up back then, it was like, oh my god, this is great. This is like winning the lottery. Like we didn't even steal the
Guys
quarters.
are
We
like,
reached out and
hey, look, you can get the quarter thing.
yeah.
Nah, fuck that. We want the service credit
We
button.
didn't care about the money, man. We saw the shiny quarters on the bottom. We didn't even want them.
Who cares
We
about
just
the
wanted to
service
push
credit?
that button. And we even had an arcade. In our arcade when they stopped taking care of the games after a while, because that's another thing that happened. They stopped taking care of the games.
Yeah.
Did you guys ever notice though? Back in the day at the arcade, everything freaking worked. Okay.
Yeah. You did.
And if it didn't work, you would still win with the arcade. You'd still know with that button that didn't work. You'd still play the game. You'd be like,
Yeah.
I'll take this cabinet because high punch don't work. I don't need high punch.
Always, yeah, that's true.
But and then they stopped maintaining. The arcades. That's the thing too. When the arcade started.
Funny
dying,
thing you mentioned about the draw round. Most people don't know this. So, if you both had the same amount of life, it was a draw round. But ironically, when you're as lame as us, we found out that if nobody loses power, the game is over.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
was. I'm telling you, they invented that because of us. I'm
Yeah.
telling you, they did because we would sit there and figure out ways to prolong the damn game.
Yeah, so if you
You
didn't
know what I
take any
mean?
life, a round goes by and no one took any life, which in
Gone.
MK2 is not beyond the realm of possibility in some cases. The game was over, and you had to both put your money in.
Yeah.
Yep. I'm telling you, it was because of players like us. This is why that stuff happened. I mean, there's so much stuff.
Yeah, it was designed to keep putting your money in the machine, so.
Yeah, and it costs a lot. That's why I have so much respect for players like us back then, and I'm not like again. I am not dissing the players today. We can't play. We can't beat those guys. Bill, you're still on the level of playing the greatest players. Me and Jimmy. We are not.
Oh,
that.
I'm
We
not
are
on their
not
level
that.
anymore, man. I stayed there as long as I could, man.
You have been the best at it. I mean, that's the whole thing. Like you after you and Matt. Let's say I call you. Even though you were there from the beginning, Matt wasn't. Okay, and I try telling Matt all the time that MK2 was biggest in the arcade. He still don't believe me. He still doesn't believe me.
Two was biggest, but it didn't have. I'm not really sure why two did not translate like UMK3. There was something about UMK3 that allowed it to live, 99, 2000, 2010, and even today, you see tons of tournaments online being streamed on YouTube for UMK3. MK2, I think, and you even see MK4 South America. They have tournaments on the N64, etc. Mortal Kombat 2 is kind of like lost. It's lost in time.
Two was bigger, and KI was bigger than UMK3, and that's another thing that Matt does not believe. He will never agree with me, but he's wrong. He is 100% wrong.
I mean, in that
KI
era, it was bigger, but there was just something about UMK3 that translated to today, and for some reason, 2 just didn't have the legs, didn't transcend time.
It was the reason why the reason why UMK3 still played today was the run button. That's the reason. It's fast like the games are today. Back then it was.
I mean,
slow.
MK4 has running. MK4.
Yeah,
is
but
a
still.
MK4 is a disaster.
You had KI. You had like virtual fight. Well, here's another thing. We had a guy. Jimmy, tell the virtual fighter story. The guys who played that game.
What,
Like
we
that,
had that old Asian cat that used to come in.
Nobody could beat that guy.
The guy used Akira.
Yeah.
And did all those counter locks.
This is VF1?
Yeah. Virtual 1, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we had all the games back then they weren't have no run button. Everything was freaking, molasses slow. That's how all the games were. And all of a sudden they came out with this speedy UMK3. That's why UMK3 played today. It's played on the same level as all the games that you guys have today. MKX, MK11, it's all fast, whatever it is.
But 3 was also,
That's why UMK3.
99. I remember Shock when he was, going to the Philly tournaments with him and Prophet were just setting it up on Trilogy and then on PC. This is like 2000. So
yeah, we were long done by then.
Yeah, I mean, so UMK3 was still going on even like 2000s. It's not something that's just modern. It's pretty much it died for a little bit and then it had a second life. It just had a life of its own. It had a community that just wouldn't let the game die.
Right, but those guys were playing on pads, right? This is another thing. This is another thing I want to tell you. I don't know the history. I don't actually remember. I mean, I've known Matt for many years now. I don't know if they were playing on pad, I guess. As soon as pad was introduced, I quit.
We were done.
You're also one of the biggest MK3 haters of all time.
Oh yeah, dude.
You didn't mind regular 3, but UMK3 was the thing, right? I mean,
Jimmy, you could back me up here. Was I not the best of us in that UMK?
Yeah.
Was I the best?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, and of course, I lost to not much, but I did lose to people. I never lost in 2, ever, or 1. But 3, I would say we didn't like the game.
No.
We didn't like the game. We did the same combos we did in 2. We were still dominant.
We didn't like dial combos. We didn't like ugly animations. where you go from a jump punch to a standing low kick in like less than three frames. You're literally punching the guy in the head, in the very next frame you're standing up, kicking him in the leg.
Yeah, it's like what? I mean, that game, and we just couldn't get the rhythm. We had this when you played MK2, it was very robotic. These guys had robot. They knew every counter to everything. So if they
Yeah.
kicked you at a certain angle, they knew how to kick back at you. If you jump back with a kick, they would jump forward. They would just play the game like a robot, and that disappeared in 3. 3 just went like all over. So yeah, I can safely say that. I mean, I love to play the game because people are playing. I'll play it, but it was no 2. It was also no KI, by the way. KI
No.
was amazing in the arcade.
So okay,
Amazing.
so 2 was pretty much, I think, one of the biggest peaks of my crew versus your crew. Where did you guys travel for that? Any stories about money matches? People salty about losing money? People trying to get their money back afterwards through trying to fight or whatever? Any of those stories or?
Uh, I'd say we didn't really have the money stuff because no, that wasn't. I don't even think anybody really cared about the money back then. Back then, it was about the bragging rights, and okay, bringing up travel. Jimmy might know more. Jimmy was the only one with a car back then. We all had cars, but like in the early times, we did Jersey and we did the E3 trip, which you got to bring up, Jimmy. You got to bring that one up because that was all you.
Well, I mean, I had done traveling because again, I was always playing Johnny Appleseed and bounce. So I mean, I went up to Boston. I played. We went up there for the MK4 tour back then. But I traveled a lot. I did Florida, Orlando, should I say? I mean, that's Florida, but Disney. Um, money wise, the worst money thing that I had ever done is, Penn Station Arcade. I played somebody for $100, and then they tried to rob me.
I think I remember that.
So I took the money and I ate it. And I said, you got to cut it out. My stomach
You
is
Right.
ate the money.
yes.
You
Right.
ate the $100.
I ate $100 and said, now you got to get it.
Yeah, I
And
remember
at that
that.
point, the guys were like, yo, this is a crazy
Right,
motherfucker.
fuck this guy. I remember that. Oh, I remember that story. Oh man,
And they were like, just leave him be.
that's right, because Jimmy worked in the city always, so he'd take the train and he played Penn Station. Yeah, I remember that stuff. See, that's the thing. Like, I don't remember every little detail, but we had some crazy shit like that. Yes, we did. We did.
In Jersey, we played for Jersey money. So the thing is, um, people don't understand. When people think about money matches, they think, oh, you talk trash to the guy and you get him to put some money up to shut your mouth. In the arcade era, if you're talking trash to somebody, they're like, I'm not going to play this guy for money. I'm not stupid. You didn't hustle money by talking trash like you were the end all be all and someone's going to shut your mouth. You pretend like you're the dumbest dope to ever live. I remember Bridgewater Sports Arena. My girlfriend used to go ice skating there. And I remember there's a guy there. I was standing by I was waiting for it to change, and I was standing by the MK2 machine. This guy's playing people for money, and he's like, "What about you? You want to play for money?" And I was like, "I mean, I only got a 20 on me. Do you take that? Should I break it?" And he was like, "Yeah, we take that. No problem." I crushed him easily. Take my money. Get out of here, kid. But really, money wasn't. Most people weren't trying to play for money. So I think there people who knew each other, who were good players, might have put big sums of money up. But the rumors of you going to the arcade and you're playing these scrubs who are putting up big money, that never happened. Usually randoms were not the ones to put up money. So those stories are a bit embellished.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, we again, I never met anybody else. Okay, like there's a million people playing these games. All these game tags, all these really great guys making all this money, sponsored. Where are the people? This is why I really wanted, because Bill, you got a lot of followers, whatever. Really wanted people to hear this so we could speak to other people who kind of could add to the story that we have. Because to this day, till, and I've been talking to Jimmy for fucking decades, okay? We've been trying to find people who actually can
Who-
add
Yeah.
or give us stories like the ones we're giving you. I have not heard it anywhere, ever.
Never.
Anywhere.
Nobody on the West Coast. Nobody in the.
Oh, I
Where
got
are
some
these
stories,
guys?
man.
I'm
I'm
calling out every. I'm not, like I said, I'm not that guy. I'm not the guy who's. I'm calling out every player from MK1 and MK2. Where are you guys? I mean, tell me a story. I don't care if you don't play and you have 17 kids or whatever. Tell me the stories. Where are the people?
From 1 and
haven't
2,
heard
I don't know how many
anything.
there are in 1. 2, I think most people didn't travel outside of their state. I know, like Dream TR went to Chicago. Dream TR the best to ever play MK2.
All right, where's the Chicago guys even though? I don't hear any.
You
of
don't
those
even hear much for the
stories.
testers. The testers in 2 were Vinicor and Ferrier. And I
Yeah.
think Adam
Right.
Hernandez came in.
3. I
Yeah.
think he came in
Yeah,
at
but
3.
those guys, you know what? Those guys don't count. They were testers. I want stories from guys who.
The Scott McCarrons.
Yeah. Okay. So, if I don't hear that, I'm going to self-proclaim that our group was the best in the country. I'm telling you guys. I'm putting that out there right now.
Nah, Dream TR was the best. You know that, Nit.
I don't believe it.
Oh,
Where were they?
come on, man. Stop.
Come on, where were they?
Dream TR was number 1 in MK2. He was the best.
Jason Wilson
Jason Wilson was the best.
had turned around. I bodied him in MK2. He bodied me in MK3.
Yeah, we're talking 2 and 1 here. That's what I mean. I'm not talking 3. I'm talking 2 and 1.
I'm just saying.
I don't know. He's universally recognized as number 1 and 2, but I digress.
How old is he?
He's a little younger than me.
There's no way he was better than us. There's no way.
He was good. You don't remember
But he might
playing?
be older than me. Jason Wilson, if you're older than me, let me know so I don't feel
He's
as old,
gotta be.
please.
He's gotta be. He's gotta be.
He might be older than me.
We were so good back then.
I mean, he has to be older than me. He has to be older than me.
Do you know who Jason Wilson is?
He has to be older than me. He has to be older than me.
Is that the guy? We played him, right?
This is the guy that when we went to Atlanta.
Oh, that guy.
And both of the shows we went to.
I think I remember.
When we went to Atlanta and we went to LA the first time.
Right.
He was the adamant guy to play us.
Oh,
And
that's
Remember,
right.
he plays Jax, all Jax.
He worked for
Okay,
Tips and
I
Tricks
wasn't there.
magazine.
I wasn't there. It was you and Rich who were in Atlanta. You guys told me about this guy. I never played him. That's the story. I think that's the story. So okay, and you guys lost to him?
I
Or
lost
no?
in MK3, not in 2.
Not in 2, because you
Yeah.
probably didn't
So
play.
you were traveling to Atlanta. You stayed mainly in New York for MK1 and 2?
I was New York. Oh yeah, Long Island, primarily New York,
Primarily
Long Island, and then we would do New York City at night, some nights, but rarely.
We're in New York
Because-
City. What part? I used to go along Broadway sometimes. There used to be like a ton of arcades.
What's the
Playland.
name of that arcade again, Jimmy?
Playland.
Playland. That's right. Yeah, we played at Playland.
Playland was the best arcade for fighting games. Period. Fuck
Yes.
Chinatown Fair.
Yeah.
I ain't never had shit. If you talk about Broadway arcade, that was specifically pinball.
Yep.
But Penn
Playland was
Station, Penn Station and Playland were like the specific for arcade for fighting games.
How did I never run into you, Nit, in MK3 at Playland?
Because we always travel together, so you
Okay.
might not even have got to me. That's another thing. I was at the end. I would purposely wait to see if anybody won, and
If I was there, believe me, I would have got to you. If I was at that arcade, I would have recognized you too. I know you now. I would remember like, hey,
I'm telling you. I'm not. I don't talk shit. Seriously, we were the best. There was nobody better.
Fair enough.
There was no one better. I'm telling
The
you. I would never.
But like I
lie
remember
about this
Jimmy,
guy.
I met someone when I was 18, and 20 years later I remembered him. Like I would be like, oh yeah, Nit. I used to see this guy in his whatever. Like I would remember.
Well, I think Jimmy must have been on. I would say that he was probably on because we didn't stop playing, but we did lose our competitive because there was nobody to play, man. There was nobody to play after a while. We just like lost it.
Should have come to Jersey with us throwers, boys. Should have.
And that's when our infighting all started.
Because then we started fighting each other.
So we started fighting, literally getting to the point of fighting each other.
It was bad. I mean, it was bad. But I do want people to hear this, and I just want to hear about stories about groups of people in different states. Of course, there's something, but until I hear that, I don't think that we were really beatable. And I don't mean any disrespect to anybody. Honestly, of course, there's better players than us. Of course, there was. We weren't great. When I got back into the scene 20 years later and I started playing, I used to be like, yeah, I'm gonna just wipe the floor with all these old players, and I lost to everyone. And I was like, okay, I guess we weren't that good.
I think I would have beat you guys with Sub-Zero and regular MK3.
I don't think so, man. I'm telling you. I'm
There,
telling you.
there is
we're
no
that
one
good.
better. Oh, back
First of all,
to
if you
those
played
days.
Sub-Zero, Sub-Zero is bottom tier. I mean, like.
And regular MK3 was the best. And regular 3?
Oh yeah, no, regular MK3, yes. No, I'm talking 2 and 1.
Oh, 2,
So
no.
much
And 2
2
I played Jax and Melina. And then for fun, Shang Tsung.
Yeah, 2 and 1. Yeah, 3, you probably would have. You might have beat us in 3. I mean, okay, we weren't like.
We
all right,
weren't great in 3.
We were very good in 3, but were we the best at 3? Now, did we lose occasionally? Yes, but I don't remember getting like destroyed at an arcade and just like walking out of there. We never walked out of an arcade with our tail between our legs.
like destroyed, right? They never,
We've
obviously
never-
you guys were.
We have never.
Very
I can Jimmy. I'm not wrong, right? We never walked out of an arcade.
No,
Yeah,
we
so-
always, when we went into an arcade, we went in sure and left. Always left with the good results.
And our group was 10 years, 8 years. How many years was it? 6 years? How many years we were together? Like
92,
every day?
98, I think was
92 to
the
like 98, like 92 to MK4.
92, 98.
Yeah, so that's true. So we never walked out of an arcade for those years
Without putting up a fight, basically.
No, we never.
And nobody came into our arcade.
You mentioned something so you mentioned how the MK guys and the Street Fighter guys would go at it, right? Mm-hmm. And it's funny you bring up infighting because something was about to happen. So you have all these guys playing Mortal Kombat 2, and then Mortal Kombat 3 comes out, and from the very beginning there was infighting between the guys who liked MK2 and MK3. I think I was at my arcade, almost every arcade I went to, I would hear somebody arguing over 2 versus 3. Talk to me about that. So the MK world, all of a sudden, then we had 2 players saying 3 was garbage, and 3 players saying 2 was garbage. Give me your recollections about that.
All right. Well, me and a guy Rich who Jimmy brought up, we bought 2 arcade machines, and this is where the fighting began a little bit. We love 2 so much, we bought 2 machines. Okay, we put them in an arcade and they bombed because MK3, again, this is another reason why I tell Matt all the time that 2 was so much more dominant than 3. They didn't make the money we thought they'd make. That was a lot of freaking money back then. I don't remember how much we paid. Actually, Jimmy would know.
5 Gs.
Yeah.
I mean, but when 3 came out, 2 began to die off because everybody, for the most part, was migrating over to 3, and then you had a lot of these arguments.
We thought so. We thought that's what was going to happen. We thought we were going to make our money back in like 2 months. We didn't because 3 didn't do as well as 2. It was nowhere near as big as 2 was. It was not even close. And nobody knows this. I mean, we own 2 arcade machines.
But then again, MK2 also benefited from Mortal Kombat, that huge ad. It benefited from the Senator Lieberman hearings.
Yeah, it benefited from
And 3 didn't have that. It's almost like if one artist has MTV backing him and one artist doesn't. Well, the one with MTV backing him is going to be.
You know that now. We didn't have the hourglass back then.
Yeah, I'm saying, looking back on it, Mortal Kombat for MK2's period had a ton of exposure on every news outlet. You had Captain Kangaroo on the TV talking about kids, or
think about
Mr. Rogers was talking about Mortal Kombat, for God's sake, on the news.
Right.
You know, so.
But think about what you're saying. So you're a kid. You're like 20-something years old. Of course, you want to buy a 3 because why wouldn't it get the same hype as 2? Why? It's the biggest legendary game there is. Of course, we had to do it. 3, just didn't have it. It just we were very mad at 3. We were as a group of great players. 3, we just looked at ourselves like, what the hell, man? I mean, like, yeah, we loved it, of course. MK could do no wrong, but it wasn't 2. And this is like the 1 and 2 days and the KI days. That was the glory days of the arcade. Jimmy, am I wrong?
No, no, no. It definitely MK3 is my least favorite out of the first 4.
Yeah, definitely.
Or should I say, let's go 5, because even MK3 it's itself versus UMK3.
Mm-hmm.
MK3. We used to travel because we had a friend that had an arcade route, and he would go and do the shows for the distributors. So, we all went to Jersey and, played the mustard and ketchup version of MK3. And this is going to be the greatest thing ever. And even playing it, while I enjoyed it, it kind of just didn't give that pop that 1 and 2 had. And I don't know if it was just because it was new, or it didn't feel like how now when I play MK11 or 10, it don't feel like Mortal Kombat no more.
This is MK3. See, I loved MK3. MK3, regular MK3 was one of my favorites of all time.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel so. Mortal Kombat 3, I feel like is really when the crew versus crew really picked up, more so than even 2. At least in the Jersey area, anyway. Like I remember going to Willowbrook Mall and friendshipping like everybody on the planet. A whole bunch of scenes. They would come to Menlo, and then we would go to their place or whoever, or whether it be Freehold Mall where I met Prophet very early, 95, 96.
Did you know Al, by the way? I'm sorry to interrupt.
Al the God, yes.
Okay, so if you knew Al, you knew me, because I was with Al all the time. Al joined our.
I only saw Al the God once, and then
Okay.
one time I saw him again was when I played him in Mortal Kombat Deception. He played Raiden.
Okay, so you didn't really know him in the arcade. Okay,
No.
because that's another reason why we didn't meet back in the day. Because this is something else, by the way, with the rival stuff. Those guys like the Grinch and Al, they joined our group.
We were like, what was that? Was it the Never Ending Story? The Nothing? We consumed all the people.
They couldn't beat us. They couldn't beat us at all. So they joined our group. They joined us. We had a lot of stragglers on the way that we took
And
in.
what Al brought that we didn't do, he was a throwing motherfucker. Remember when he went to Spaceplex?
Oh
And,
man.
and just threw, and they were like, "What the fuck? Don't he know the rules?"
Oh man, he didn't give a shit, and he was actually, Al was better than me. He was. When I met Al, because we beat Al in the beginning, but he evolved. He took our stuff
Yeah.
and throws and like little conniving little things that he did. He got better, so he actually improved. So that's when I realized that, like, yeah, there's players out there who could actually take what we know and kind of improve it. So it was nice having Al on your team too. Because we had teams, man. We'd go in with teams, teams of guys, and that was very intimidating. Bringing up that, so Bill, you played it. You played at Willowbrook, right? That was your place.
No, it was Menlo, but
Menlo,
Menlo
okay.
and the break. But I used to go everywhere. Willowbrook, Freehold, wherever I heard that there was someone to play. East Brunswick Square Mall. I went everywhere. Woodbury Commons. I went everywhere to kick the crap out of anyone I could possibly find. Like that's.
So we just missed each other, man. I mean, we missed each other by a few arcades. Seriously.
Yeah, and I would travel to New York here and there. I would travel like a little everywhere. I went all the way down the coast, been to the Midwest, Florida. I mean, everywhere.
And there was no internet for you to know that we were ready to play you.
And
That's the thing.
Even like I brought up with Shock, like even later on, guys like Hanzo, etc. I had no way to kind of like wasn't able to finally reach out, talk to those guys, Ninja Grinder, etc. Up and maybe like MK Deadly Alliance when like Ninja Grinder and Dead, and I saw these guys like playing like classic MKs and like 4, and I was like, Jesus, these guys are like incredible players. But there was no way to know about these guys or reach out to these guys back in the era. Unfortunately,
Right.
you did you guys ever travel? I know you mentioned you went to Diversions in MK4 Chicago. Did you guys ever travel there, try to play? I know Jimmy, you played the testers in MK1 at E3. Did you guys ever go to Chicago to play Nitten outside of MK4? Did you ever go? Did you ever say, you know what, let me go and try to play these guys that tested the game that are supposed to be the best?
I never heard of it until Jimmy told me. Jimmy's like, "Yeah, we got to go there and beat him." That's what I always used to hear, and I was like, "Okay." Like, I went to Milwaukee Metal Fest one day, and I'm like, "Of course, I'm gonna stop at Diversions first," and they fucking killed me, man.
This
Oh my
was
god.
97, 98 MK4.
Yep.
Did they
That was
hated
like
MK4? They preferred WaveNet.
I played WaveNet, by the way. I am one of the only people who played it. I played it there. I have played WaveNet. It was amazing. I couldn't
WaveNet
even imagine.
really kind of killed MK4 in the Chicago scene. It was really more WaveNet than MK4.
It was the star. It was right there. The machine was like it was like a freaking like Arnold Schwarzenegger walked into fucking. It was like a spotlight on it. That was amazing, man. We never even heard of that shit on the East Coast. I mean, we've never seen it. We didn't have one, right, Jimmy? There was no
No.
WaveNet anywhere in
No,
New
we
York.
No,
never
it
got
was
it.
only in Chicago. Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen that machine. I played on that machine. I was like, this is a fucking amazing.
Actually, I think they did Chicago and San Francisco.
Two places, yeah, something like that. Two places had it. But
So
that was like, wow.
You guys weren't traveling to different states, whatever, for MK3 or?
We only started traveling after IRC. And after IRC, we did a few things that Jimmy said, but we were very local, and the Long Island scene to this day, from all the knowledge that we have, was the strongest MK scene. I mean, I know the Jersey guys will say no, but I'm telling you guys, it was massive.
I mean, I was more middle to end of MK2. And I was 15. I just started travel at the end of MK2. The UMK3 came out. I don't know. I forget how long. Maybe a year, maybe a little less than a year after MK3. For me, I really preferred regular MK3 because the specials meant a lot more. I feel like UMK3 toned down the specials quite a bit to the point that the game was more about the jabs and the jab pressure, etc. Specials were no longer as over the top. What do you guys remember about UMK3? What do you guys remember about that?
We didn't. Nobody used the jabs back then.
No.
Okay, so that's the thing too. Because when I started playing again,
We were out. By the time we were out, jabs still haven't even come into play.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like that's how long we've been into. Like none of those people, no one did that stuff. And even if someone tried to do it, we were still better in ways. But when I started playing again, then I saw that everybody was just doing that, and I was like, "Oh, what is this?" I'm like, "What's going on here?" So they glitch jamming was in MK1. What do you guys know? Yeah, we know, but we knew about it afterwards. And even if we knew about it then, we wouldn't have done it.
It did.
Yeah, we had too much pride.
Oh, we
were
did it all
biggest-
day.
We were biggest bunch of delinquents, but we had so much pride about the game. We'd never throw and we'd never do that shit.
Oh, we didn't care.
Yeah.
I can say the newer players have taken the game to a level that I didn't play on, and I don't think anybody played on that level. But the newer players today play on. Shock was very instrumental in pretty much bringing UMK3 from where it was to where it is. And a lot of the players today are just better, including the guys in MK4 that I see. They're just, we didn't do that back then. I know I didn't. They're just on another level from that.
It's really amazing.
You didn't really like UMK3 though, right? Nit and Jimmy, you guys.
We like the game, but we prefer 2. We like the game. Everyone says that we hate it.
We didn't hate
the game. We would play it because people would play it because of course we were competitive. We had it in our freaking bones, man. We had to win. We just had to win, so we played it. But did we love it? It didn't have the same feel. Am I wrong, Jimmy?
Yeah, no. We would rather turn around to you and be like, "Hey, you want to play Mortal Kombat?" And you'd be like, "All right," and then just put it MK2, and you'd be like, "But this ain't the latest one." Yeah,
Right.
but this one's better.
Oh, I
Yeah,
love regular MK3. I loved it. Regular MK3, I loved MK3.
It was well 3. I got one story about 3. I don't know if since you're a Jersey guy, I played on the beaches. And do you remember in
Point
Point
Pleasant,
Pleasant they had
Seaside, all those places.
yeah, they had like 25 machines. You
Yeah.
remember that?
Yep.
Okay. So I played there because I did work in Lakewood for a few years. So I did play there. I didn't find any competition there either. I'm sure you weren't there either.
No, the
That's the thing.
beaches they were terrible.
Yeah, that's
I
what I
never
thought.
went there. No,
Yeah, so I used to go there because it was close. Because Jersey was pretty big for a New Yorker back then. Long Islander especially, because I just I have a car, of course,
it's
but
very spread out in Jersey.
I'm not exactly. I'm not from here. In Long Island, everything's like 20 minutes. You know, it's like okay, we'll go to the next arcade 20 minutes. And freaking going to different beaches and shit in Jersey, like this is a long way. Like and no internet to find anybody to play. And of course, the malls had kids, but not always. So, like, we had these arcades in Long Island. They were open till what was Westbury open till, Jimmy? Till midnight?
Midnight.
Yeah, I mean, come on, midnight every night during the week, every day.
Yeah, a
You
lot of the
know,
malls, like I know Menlo, their movie theater would be open late, so the arcade would be open later. And then after Menlo would close, we would then go to the break to like 2 or 3 a.m. Sometimes after Menlo would close, then we would go to New York, or a little before that, just to get the really late night crowd. Or we would go to, Sports Park in like South Plainfield or places like that. And I did a lot of traveling outside of the state for MK3. I think Atlanta had the Galleria Mall. I traveled
so it
pretty
looks
much
like you did a lot more
everywhere.
traveling. You did a lot more traveling than we did because we couldn't find players. You could walk into an arcade and play somebody, but we didn't know. We
In early
thought
MK3, so let me tell you what it was like. It
yeah
was very much like when you watch a zombie movie and they're like, I heard that there's a human colony over here. And they would just go, right? They didn't even know, right? They read a book somewhere. Somebody would tell me, oh man, you got to go here. These are where the players were. And I'm like, all right, then I got to go there and crush them. That's pretty
right.
much the way we did. We traveled in groups a lot just because we didn't want to get robbed. There was quite a few situations of like where if I was by myself, more likely than not, I probably wouldn't have left with the money. But tournaments started to really pick up at this point. So arcades were. I don't know how it was where you guys were, but it started out as like almost like gang violence. Somebody's crew would come to your area and everybody would know these guys don't belong. And the minute you walked into the arcade, someone's like, listen, these guys are over here from so and so, right? And then you would go to their place and then, it would be back and forth. And then somebody else would come or you would go somewhere else. I mean, is that like that in New York? Did anybody ever come to your
This
arcade?
is
And
all the stuff you're saying is all after. We were before all this stuff. This is what I'm trying to say. Like these things that you're actually putting them into groups like, yeah, there was this going on. We were trying to establish all the stuff you were saying. We tried and failed because there was nothing. It was, I
no
mean,
way to get
it was
get a hold of anybody. There was no information to
no,
really.
people did like they would stop into our arcade, and then they would be like, okay, there's a thing here, and then they would either join the crew, or they would say, there's a player at this place, we got to go. So we started doing that.
Well, I mean, we did evolve it. Remember, we did like for
But we were started.
MK3 days. We had Cafe Royale. We brought in Black Jay, White Jay.
Oh yeah. But that wasn't like that. There was one good player there, and we would go to his place to play, and then they would think that this is the thing I'm trying to say, Bill. People would figure out that man, maybe we got to get better at this. They didn't even think it was a thing. You know what I mean? That's what
Yeah.
I'm trying to say. It wasn't a thing back then. You played
No, it
somebody,
was just get better.
right? It wasn't. What? But then when people started thinking like, maybe we could make a like a tournament or a thing. But we were the guys before that, if you know what I mean. We're just trying to formulate that thing that it is today.
So you guys were more in your arcade in Long Island, and then you would go to New York, late at night for the late night crowd there.
Right, not always. Occasionally, that would be like we had so much fun in where we played We
Never
didn't even
left.
have to.
So in your
We never-
area, was it just your group mainly that dominated? Was there anybody else that would come in and challenge you guys, or?
There was. That's the
Guys
thing.
would come from all over.
They would, but they didn't know that it was a thing. That's what I'm trying to say. They would come, they would just stop at the arcade, get food or something, and they'd be like, "Holy shit, these guys can play!" And we would just we would get new players there, and then it was created like, okay, there's groups of people out there but that wasn't like someone would come in like you, like Bill, you were saying, yeah, I'm gonna go. If I heard about you guys, I'd come beat you guys down. That wasn't a thing back then. There was nothing like that. It wasn't a thing to do.
Just no way to even get that information that there was even a place
Right.
there. Yeah.
Right. So that's why I say to this day that we were the originators of that stuff. Because
So you would even have no idea to even go to X place because you even knew it was there. There was no way to even
Right.
find out about it. Yeah.
right. We started thinking about doing this. We're like, we should go to places and beat them down. We came up with that. And we would try doing that. And when we did that to let's say Drew Boy, that was probably the first time any group met of that we knew. And it was pretty.
So how hostile was that? Like when you would meet another group, was there any hostility
It was
there?
hot.
Or?
The first day was hostile. They didn't know what to do. We didn't know what to do. We didn't know what to expect. We had a meeting before we got in the arcade. I remember this. Jimmy drove. We got outside. We all sat in the parking lot. We're like, all right, guys, we don't know what we're going to expect here. And if there's gonna be a fight, I don't know. I remember this. Jimmy used to be like the Godfather. So he used to be like, and he used to joke around a lot, but he was actually serious. And I'll never forget this. I wasn't a fighter. Rich was kind of a fighter, kind of a talker, and
Rich
we had a
was like
little
the
kid with us.
enforcer of your group, though, right?
No, he was the antagonizer.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
The enforcer was Jimmy. Jimmy
Okay.
was the guy who.
Jimmy, you told me one of those guys was the enforcer, though.
No, well, Mike Moore, right?
Mike Moore, snapper.
Yeah, it was
Okay.
Mike Moore, but Jimmy was the guy. Jimmy was very scary too. I mean, like, cause he'd get in your
I know. I
face.
saw him choke the guy out in a
Yeah,
K4
I mean,
right in
so
front
you
of my
had
face.
we had a group that we could hold our own. But Jimmy's like, he said to us, he's like, if you guys get to shit tonight, I don't know what we could do. We'd have to leave because we're not from here. We walked in, and I'm not kidding you. Drew's on Twitter. We can get Drew to vouch for the story. This is but we killed them, man. We destroyed them. I mean, it wasn't even.
Never playing the game.
Yeah, it was.
Period.
It was so bad.
He put the ROMs in then and there.
Yup. While we were there, man, it was bad. It was bad. And to that day, like, there was nothing. The stuff that you're talking about, like money matches and better at the arcades, that was all afterwards. It was all afterwards. And that's why I want anybody who's listening to this to just tell me a story about what you guys did. Until anybody says that, I'm telling you, we were the best. I'm telling you, we were. I'm telling you. It meant everything. Screw the money. And can we go back to fatalities for a second? We learned how to hide. We would put the fucking jackets on top of the arcade. We knew all the fatalities. Nobody knew them in MK2. We were legends, man. I'm telling you. People would come in and be like, how the hell do these guys know this stuff? It was crazy.
Little did they know I got to play the game 24/7 for free and do nothing but practice fatalities.
It was amazing though that just knowing that stuff. I mean, listen, it's 5 o'clock in the morning where I'm at, and I'm like a kid in a candy store. I love talking about shit because it was our lives back then.
People
Can't
used to
deny it,
also,
Jimmy.
I don't know if this is in your arcade, but people used to sell these sheets with the fatalities to kids.
Oh yeah, that was way past when we did stuff.
because in the game magazines you're paying $20 for like 2 or 3, so you got to pay like $100 for all the fatalities, and you could buy them from somebody for $5-10, right? So was
Way
that going on
after
with you?
us.
Oh, because I sold them like crazy.
Way after us. I mean, way after us. We heard about that stuff way after. I mean, that's how early I'm talking. We were hiding fatalities. We were so good at doing them that you couldn't even see me do them when people would try to study your hands. Ain't no cameras to take pictures and shit. They couldn't do anything back then. Somebody
Nobody's
just busted
standing
out.
over you with a cell phone.
When you say hide your hands, people think that's that's BS. And we say people would hide their hands. That fatalities were a huge deal, like keeping them secrets, right?
God, they were massive. When I used to do Raiden's second fatality, dude, nobody knew anything about it.
Millions of joystick motions for nothing.
Which one? The
man.
shocker? Which one you talking about?
Yep.
Yeah.
The uppercut. The uppercut.
Oh, the whole
no,
high
not the
punch?
shocker. The uppercut was the one that was found later.
Well, that came
the-
3.1 or 3.0.
Yeah, but when we did the uppercut, man, people were like, "Holy shit!" Man. When we did Kitaro and stuff. I mean, like, but the thing is, that's something I want to bring up too. The fatalities were so big. Knowing how to do them was so much a part of everything, and even fatalities in MK3, which no one cared about. You know, they were. It's still no one knew them. You know what I mean? And when we knew them too, and that is the era we played in. No hiding fatalities, starting tournaments, starting groups together, looking for other arcades. We started that entire thing, and I really wanted. That's why I wanted to do this podcast with you, because I wanted to bring this stuff up, because I've never heard any of this stuff from anyone ever.
No West Coast, East Coast,
Nothing.
and specifically New York and New Jersey.
It was there. West Coast, I started traveling UMK3 and a lot in MK4. Mainly the NorCal
this is
area. San
afterwards.
Francisco actually had a pretty big scene for MK4.
Right.
So you guys, I know Jimmy, you wrote the book for all these, including MK4. You guys, MK4 came out. What did you guys think of it? How much did you guys play it?
We thought it was going to be the shit. We were like, oh my God, it's going to be the greatest thing ever. Because, you know, we got access because of our friend to the promo videos from Betson, who was the East Coast biggest distributor of arcade cabinets. So he had showed us this, oh my God, there's going to be this Mortal Kombat 4 tour, and this game's going to be the shit. And your buddy Nicastro's pop over there saying this is the best thing since sliced bread.
God, you guys will never let him live that down. Like Neil said, MK4 is the mother of all fighting games. Man, people don't ever let him live that down, man.
So bad.
We got so pumped and prepped for it because, again, MK3 didn't do it for a lot of us, you know. So it was like, all right, they're going 3D. This is it. So we go. The first place we go is we drive up to Boston for the Mortal Kombat 4 tour.
Oh God, yeah. Disaster.
We get up there. The game's in alpha.
Yeah.
Not even in beta yet. Like Noob Saibot was just a marker. Shinnok was just a regular dude that you're like, does he have any powers?
Nothing,
yes,
yeah.
he has a spear.
I don't know if you guys know this. In the beta of MK4, I'm sure you do, Jimmy. Do you guys know what the very first, I don't know if Jimmy remembers, the very first fatality in MK4 history?
Was it Scorpion?
Scorpion and Sub-Zero. But one of the biggest things in MK4 was Shinnok. Do you guys remember this?
The hand?
He could do one fatality, not as Shinnok. Do you guys remember this?
I don't.
No.
So in the later versions of the game, when he won, he would always turn back into Shinnok, you know, and he would have to do Shinnok's fatality. In the beta, once it says finish him, you could stay whoever you were morphed to for how long the time was, providing you hadn't run the timer out.
Oh,
or
yeah.
morph into somebody else. He could
Yeah.
do Sub-Zero's fatality, and instead of the spine rip, it would do Quan Chi's leg rip. But Quan Chi's leg rip wasn't in the game yet. It was Shinnok's fatality when done as Sub-Zero.
Yeah, something like that. I remember. Or couldn't he do everybody's fatality? Whatever. if you were morphed into that character at the time or something like that. I don't remember. It's something like
They
I used
all
to do
weren't in
that.
the game.
Yeah. My memories of 4 is just bad.
I'm surprised they didn't bring Kai back.
Mm.
They brought him back with the 3D game. So
No, I'm saying for MK11.
4 I played quite a bit.
Yeah, I know you were the best at 4. That I heard. That I definitely
I
heard.
thought Red Saline was.
Yeah.
God, why do you bring that? Jimmy's mortal like enemy, Red Saline.
He's not my. He was never my enemy. He just
Nah.
was a wise ass.
Yeah, he was. They were always. That's the thing, though. I mean, to this day, this is something that like none of you guys will ever know. I mean, Bill, I know you were the same era as us. I don't mean to like
No,
say
go
that you
ahead.
weren't,
No, please.
but like, this is what I mean. The Red Saline Jimmy fights, let's say, they never hated each other. It was just like a Cold War. That feeling that we had about these certain players and like certain things that we had back then will never ever be what it is. It can never be replicated because we were the first. It was the first. It was just the first of it all, and that's exactly why I wanted to bring all this stuff up today.
I have a
'Cause
question
we were
because
actually the first. Yeah.
you started I remember many of the MK4 tournaments, and even a little before then. I remember before MK9 tournaments, and even before MK9, MKDC, etc. When I was just going there for Tekken, I remember Shock would hold tournaments MK2 in some during the DC era, some in MK9 as well. And you were there, that guy BTTB or whatever his name was,
Yep.
and you were playing
Oh,
those
yeah.
guys in MK2 and. Talk to me about that, about the new era of tournaments. Where did
Man.
those guys come from? Who were those guys? That would always...
I would love to tell you this. This is a really true story, and it was actually it's pretty brutal if you really want to hear it. So I was really good at 2, and I knew all the B2B guys and like Dookie Brain and like these Philly kids, and they were all better than me, all of them. But they didn't know combos. They didn't do what I did. They the death punch master is me. You know that. So
I remember. Yeah.
so I started talking. I never did this. And I never did this. I started talking a bunch of crap to these guys. Like I'll take you guys out. I'll beat you guys. They hated me. I did it on purpose though. It was all on purpose. Everything. And I'm not that guy. Everybody who knows me knows I'm not that guy. They just know me as this guy just talking mad shit about 2. And I actually beat down a lot of them. Not B2B, not like I beat Dookie Brain bad, really bad. He was a really good MK2 player on online.
Now, were
And
these
that's
guys
how
around in the arcade era? Were these
No,
newer
but here's the
players?
thing. Here's what I'm getting to. These guys, I believe these guys played it lightly in the arcade and they played hardcore on PS2, PS3, whatever it was. And this is when you brought up the Shock tournament, whatever. This is how we got the MK2, like this is how we got the MK name back in again. Because we started playing. This was before MK9, of course. This was right before MK9. So this is where we started finding out that there was some kids who played in the arcade. We think, you know, and these are the kids that we started playing in these tournaments that Matt put together with the Big E tournaments and stuff. That's because that I was missing. I wasn't in the scene. So after you, Bill, after we were done, then pretty much you and Matt, like Matt started, but you kept going.
Yeah, well, Matt was he was younger when he got really competitive when he first met the Prophet, and then he was like,
Right.
wow, and he said Prophet was better. This was his first time really playing someone that was in the competitive scene at that time, and Prophet was a
Right.
really good player, and
Right.
then Matt started to really kind of like get into that competitive, like, okay, I'm going to be more of a competitive player. And
Right.
then Matt and Prophet were traveling and pretty much keeping the classic Mortal Kombat games alive single-handedly, really, for the most part, as far as I'm concerned.
It was all after us, though. That's the thing. So we missed each other. Like the thing is, we missed everybody because we actually did it way too early. That's the thing. That's the thing I'm trying to say is I think we tried to do all the things that you guys are doing now. Of course, we got zero credit for it because we're nobody. Jimmy's famous because Jimmy was the guy to beat. He's the guy who worked through the classic. Guys like me, nobody knows us because we did this back before everybody. And that's the thing. It's so before everything. And that's why when Matt did it, it was like we already paved the road for the guy. May even know us.
But
You know what I
still,
mean?
he helped the game achieve a new level of play
Absolutely.
while basically breathing life back into a game that the people loved it so much they wouldn't let it die, and he was instrumental in that. I think
Oh
for
yeah, that's
sure.
why I loved meeting him for the last, let's say, 10 years. I've known him more. The best part about it is I've told Matt all the stories. I mean, whatever. We're talking for 2 hours today, whatever. Matt, I've known for 10 years. He works with me and stuff. Matt actually knows every single story and he even knows all the names of all the players that we have. He has his own story in his head about all the stuff that we said, and he connected it to what he's done. So I do call Matt like he is MK for me. He is, because I took everything that he's done today and from what we did, he's joined it all. You know what I mean? He's like the joiner of everything. So that's why he single-handedly. Okay, me and Jimmy we're friends again. We because of Matt, because I found my old players and I'm like, we got to start playing again. So I can actually say Jimmy can actually back me up here. I got Jimmy back into this. It was me who did it.
Yeah, because
Everything
I wanted to fucking kill you.
right. Right. So
So
it
talk
was
about that
me.
day. I remember that day
Yeah.
specifically. It was
Go ahead,
East
Jimmy.
Coast Throwdown, MK9. I'm at the bar having a drink with Unit, I
Yep.
believe.
Yeah, we were the only ones at the bar. It was awesome.
Simon comes in. He said, "Man, there's someone here. He said he's gonna kill you." And we were like,
So basically, this is what it happens. So
Fix your mic, Jimmy. I think you're low.
yeah, hold on.
All right.
Let me mute myself for a
I
second. You guys
remember
talk
he
for a
came in.
second. I
He
gotta
said he's
return
gonna
home.
kill. He's like, "There's some guy here." He said he's gonna kill you. And then Red is coming around, and you guys are like, "Who is it?" And he goes, "He said his name is James Fink."
Yeah, I knew who it was. As
and
soon as I
then
heard, I knew who it was.
and then everybody else is like, "What is he gonna do?" And I was like, "I haven't seen this guy since I was 18. This is awesome." And like Red's like, "I'm gonna go leave now." And
This is the thing. If anybody even brought up that stuff back in the day, I knew who it was. I knew who it was. I got like my messengers who delivered that. I was eating food at the time, and and I think Red came over and he's like, dude, and he left. He freaking went home.
he
He
never came
left.
back. Left.
No, he left, and I knew who it was. I
I
knew
thought
it.
it was.
I
I
knew
thought.
it.
You hear me now?
Uh, yeah. Go
Yeah, we
ahead.
hear you. Go ahead, Jimmy.
So basically, the first one that came up to me was Money Chekhov or whatever his name was, the Yugoslavian MK3 guy
Oh,
I'm not familiar with him.
uh,
from
it
Philly,
wasn't AC, was it?
AC 1984.
Yeah.
So
Bulgaria. Yeah.
so
Okay.
AC 1984 comes up to me, and I go, "Hey, you know this guy Summoning or Knitting?" He goes, "Oh yeah, he good friend of mine." I said, "Good. When you see him, tell him somebody's here to fuck him up."
That's right. I
So then,
remember
so
that.
then, so then he leaves. So he leaves, and like 2 seconds later, Arturo Sanchez comes out with his, hey, what seems to be the problem, man? Let me get 2 packs, my wedge.
Yeah, I remember that
Uh,
shit.
so he goes, what seems to be the problem? I said, there's no problem. I said, go find this guy.
Yep. And then they all ran to me.
So
And
then 2 packs of bubble edge.
yeah.
So I'm sitting there with Snapper Mike, Edge, right below it. Down. Right there.
Jimmy's telling the guy where the cigarettes
Yeah.
are.
So so he turned around, he leaves. So now I'm sitting with Snapper Mike, who I brought with me, because again, our generation, I don't know what I'm walking into. Nitin might have like 9,000 homies got his back. So
I did have a lot of homies had my back though. That was
I
good.
could see they all ran away.
All we had to do was say
So-
somebody was going to get killed and they all ran. Yeah.
Oh man, that's funny.
So what winds up happening is I'm leaning on the column in front of the hotel, and I'm fucking fuming now. And all of a sudden I hear fucking from around the corner, "What do you mean somebody wants to fuck me up? Who wants to fuck me up?" And Nitin turns the corner and goes, "Oh shit, let me go."
Yep.
And he said, and he says to me, "Jimmy, I know you're mad about something. And you can kill me, and I'm in front of my wife and kids."
Yeah, that was some crazy shit.
And
But
and I had said to him, I said, "Listen, back in 2007, you were talking about me." And he goes,
He had it like Jay and Silent Bob. He was like, "Did you say?" And he
yeah,
pulled
but
up the
thing
site.
is-
He had the quotes from all the sites, from all the
But
old sites.
here's the
yeah.
thing: the person who was really afraid was Red, because that's the thing. He wanted to. There was a forum post or something that Red put something on, and Jimmy like.
I
to
was
this
on
day-
that thread. I was like,
Yeah.
something about James MK, and I was like, yeah, I met him once during MK4, and he was like, yeah, let me tell you that guy, he's a loser. I used to beat him easily, yada yada.
Oh yeah,
That's what he said, yeah.
Jimmy never let that down. He never ever let that down. And that he Red left that day. And there's also one more thing. I'm telling you right now, Jimmy's been back in the scene since whatever that day. It's all because of me. It's because of me. Because I got my old friends back into the game, whoever I could get back in. Because that's how much we were into it back in the day.
well, we
I
had,
can
see, it's funny. Bill, you met Rich.
Yep. We went out to Oyster Bay, had a few drinks, didn't we?
Yes. You
Of
met
course,
Rich,
Rich
and
drinks.
he met Zappa Mike.
Yep.
Okay, so that means so that was part of our crew. That was our MK.
Myself and Jimmy, we went out to the bar. They
We
joined us.
went to the Long Beach boardwalk.
Oh yeah, okay.
Yep, we all had a couple of drinks, talked about some of the old days. Jimmy, you said many times that players today don't understand, you couldn't really talk the way we talk today in the arcades because somebody would bust you in the face.
No, listen, I've known Sonic Fox since he was a kid. I'm not one of these guys, that go out there and say, I found him or anything. I always thought he was a good kid. That said, his mantra now would have not flown in the arcade back in the day. You're not going to tell people you're gay and a furry. And I'm not saying it's a good thing. I'm just saying the reality of it.
Well, it was kind of in the dark ages. People, bigots, yeah.
So how much as a player do you think he would be able to grow in that scene?
Well, I'm not even necessarily talking about that. I mean, that was in general outside of gaming. That just in general, the world was not as accepting as it is now. It was very much still a dark place at that time, and it's coming out of that now. It's a little more conscious of the way it was, but just in general, how was the trash talk in the arcades? And people run their mouth a lot. Were there any like fights with trash talk? Like, what was that like?
I mean, the fights, like I said, Nitin will tell you, Nitin's beeped me because, again, we didn't have cell phones. There was no call you. You beat me. Oh, shit.
Yeah.
I'm in a bad spot right now when you call him back because he had the alpha text where you could actually type the words.
Yeah, we had that.
we
We had the payphone.
We were still prima donna dinosaurs that had just put a number in.
Yeah, we had the payphone in the back of Nathan's. So
Now, I remember you get paged 911, then you go to the payphone, and then you call back. I mean, nobody I knew could afford this Saved by the Bell Zach Morris brick phone. I had nobody could have.
We had the
Rich
beeper.
Rich did have the brick one.
We had two phones. I think I had a phone too.
Yeah.
we had phones, and we had the beepers. So, and we had our own payphone back. So, and that payphone, back in the day, payphones had phone numbers. I don't even know if you guys know that.
Can't
I
even
do.
call in. Now you can't even call into them.
Yeah.
Right. They used to be the Westbury payphone. People used to call the payphone, and we used to be like, "Yo, there's some players here." But this was like very much towards the end, So we had our little thing, And there was a lot of trash talk, but there wasn't really fighting. There was a lot of damage to the machines, though.
Oh,
Machines got the beatings.
so one of the things. So I had done the. Now again, I don't claim to be a god in MK4. Never did I claim it. So I had gone and I had gotten the book deal with Brady, and I went and they told me like, all right, well, you got to bang this out fast. I'm like, what do you mean? They said we're gonna fly you out Friday. It's got to be done by Sunday. I'm like, okay. So I basically worked. I burnt the candle on both ends. I worked fucking straight through the night. But of course, again, priorities at that age were not the greatest. So what do? I go and I work on a book for fucking 72 hours straight, get off the plane, come to New York, and I go right back to Westbury Nathan's to play the game more.
Right.
So I go and
remember
I
that.
play Red Saline. And Red Saline's that talking shit. And he beat me. He did, and I'll never forget it. He did Quan Chi's neck stretch to me.
No, that
And
was
he
Denny
turned-
Elias.
And
He couldn't have done the
turned
neck
around-
stretch. The next,
I mean the leg beat. The leg
the
beat.
leg beat.
I mean,
Okay.
I meant the leg beat. So he does the leg beat on me, and then turns around and says, "I don't know why you're doing the book. I'm better than you."
Yeah, I remember that.
So I took my fucking knee and I drove it through the fucking cabinet. And I said, "Well, this is your fucking face," and smashed the machine. And then I never seen him. I never seen him again until that following weekend after ECT at fucking VSM.
Yes, that's right.
And that was the last time I ever saw him again. I never hated the kid. But, shit talk has boundaries.
Yep.
This day and age, kid, keep it in the game. And it's like, that's
Totally
not
different
how
now.
we were. Yeah, we
Yeah,
didn't.
totally
keep
different.
If you disrespected me to a certain level, it was no longer in the game. You tell me you fucked my mother, I'm not going to go, "Oh, I first attend me."
Was there any of that kind of talk, like personal? Did trash talk in the arcade get personal like that?
Yes. What did I used to call you, Nathan?
What? I don't remember.
What was the name I used to call you that you hated so much that you got it fixed?
I don't even remember, man. We all had names. There was so much brutality.
I used to call you neck brains.
Oh yes, I remember.
Nathan had like a mole or something on the side of his neck.
Yeah, I do. That's right.
His neck
Yeah.
brain.
And we used to call. We had a guy called AIDS patient. We had a guy called Stinky. I mean, yeah, we used to get really.
My teeth used to.
I mean, that would never go over today. Like, you couldn't call somebody that, like.
Oh, dude, we had a guy coming in. We used to call him AIDS patient. I'm serious. That's who he was. I mean, like it was just those are.
Do you ever look back at
things.
some of those things and say, we probably shouldn't have done that?
We were bad.
Dicks.
We were bad. We didn't know any better. We were just stupid kids. We had no idea.
I always try to tell people, especially to the younger guys in the scene, when I preach my little life lessons, I go, I'm not preaching it, because a lot of guys in the scene, they have no idea who the fuck I am, because I'm nobody to them. Because we never promoted people like Vi and Watson and John Choi. It was just MK, and it just evolved to the next generation. So I try to, instill some kind of, I guess, values or something to people, or morals. And, well, what have you done? You never won in Evo. Nah, but motherfucker, I'll tell you this right now. We were the meanest motherfuckers to each other.
Yeah, we were.
And we were nasty. And that's where the FGC likes to throw the word toxic out. Man, we were the most toxic.
Yep.
And I look at it
We were
now and I
toxic. We
say,
were.
I regret it? No. Why? Because I learned a lot of life lessons from it.
It made us who we are today. I
Yeah.
can safely say that was really part of who we were back then. It was just you met a bunch of delinquents at an arcade and you decided to like become friends with them and like still know them to this day. Much greater friend bonds than any of these online players, man. We're friends for life, all of us.
Yeah.
We grew up together. We're all from different races. We're all different shit wrong with us. We're all of different stuff. We like to play the game.
And it's ironic because at times in those years we had such hate for each other, but we managed to get past it. Like now, it's like, if Nitin says, "Hey, I'm voting for Biden," and I say I'm voting for Trump, we don't have to become enemies.
Right. We already went through it all.
We've understood we got different opinions on a lot of things.
Right. But I'm so glad you brought this up because this is so different nowadays. So nowadays you got all this online battles, shit going on, all this stuff, and these really bad things, and people getting banned and kicked out of tournaments, stuff like that. So we started like this rivalry between ourselves when we were younger. Okay, so we kind of knew that we could take any of the beatings in the arcade, or so now we call everybody like the online warriors, whatever. But we had this stuff in real life. You know what I mean? So we had to like, if you take 6 or 7 people and you put them together every day, they're gonna start arguing like family. You know what I mean? That's what we were. We were an extended family. We hated each other, but we loved each other. If somebody fucked with one of us, oh my God, forget it. It would be the worst possible thing that could happen. We'll spend the rest of our day trying to get back at the person who did that. You know what I mean? That's really built up friendship for years of seeing each other every day. The way the new stuff is, man, I don't know.
It's manufactured friendships now.
Yeah.
I'm a friend of you until I can get further. But
Yeah.
once I elevate, I don't need you no more.
We never stepped on each other. We always kind of beat on each other. But when each other needed us, and like if we got into like an argument or something, like an arcade or something, or we would always have each other's back. That's the difference. There's a huge difference. And it sounds corny, cheesy, whatever, but I'm telling you, it's life. It's just the way it is now. I don't ever agree with it.
I mean, the eras was certainly different. I don't think the arcade era really is its own thing. Knowledge was not even close to as widely speculated. You had to come up with everything by yourself. Mm-hmm. There, if you needed to know something, there was no one you could go to, no one you could ask. The information was pretty much self-taught, and you had to invent it. It hadn't been invented yet. There was nowhere to read it. And if somebody found out about it, you had no way of knowing until they kicked the crap out of you. It was definitely a different time for sure.
I mean, we started, and now I'm going to not 1.0, but like we started the TYMs of the TYMs.
Right.
We started, myself and RDA Rich.
Oh, nice.
Bought the domain name.
Fighter-edge.com.
And we called it fightersedge.com.
That's right.
And I had interviews. Even back then, I was doing on blast show shit. But I had interviews with all the actors and shit. I had Ed Boon private chats where guests could come in and ask questions to him and Tobias.
Yeah, it was a pretty big hit.
And all of us were editors, so everybody would have, something like Rich was big with the Nintendo 64 at the time. That was his thing. So he did all the Nintendo 64 stuff. I was the Mortal Kombat stuff. Nitin was the Killer Instinct stuff. Grinch actually worked for us before he worked with Williams, and we
Yeah.
all just basically would, even in that, the competitiveness, because at the time it was us, MKX, which was this guy OSX, and Gray Malator, who's still around, and Scott McCarran, not Scott McCarran, yeah, Scott McCarran with MK Hotwired or MK
Yeah, something like that. I remember
TRM
that.
TRMK.
Yeah, I remember all this stuff. This is some
And we were
crazy shit.
and we were competitive with each other even on that. Who could get, and they hated having to say like, yeah, fucking OBS. Fighters Edges got exclusive interviews with Kerry Hoskins. You
Right.
know, I had an interview with Kerry Hoskins. I'll never forget this. It was at E3, and she was pregnant with twins at the time. She had just started doing mythologies, and
Right.
her sister was fucking gorgeous. Not that she's not gorgeous too. And Kerry Hoskins used to fuck with me in the interview, like, "Oh, you like my sister, huh? I'll hook you up. Come on." And, and then I come to find out the sister's just as gorgeous of a model as her. And now Mr. Badass leather jacket wearing is piss is trickling in my pants because I'm like nervous talking to her. I'm like, oh my God, she's fucking gorgeous. You know, and eventually I got the interview out, but it was like a discombobulation. Because of that, that's how I got the Sub-Zero Mythology book deal
Just
with
because of that,
Brady
yeah.
Games. And that's one of the first ones I did, that and Mace. And then I brought, and then Richard was still in college at
Yeah, you
CW
brought Rich
Post.
in with you. Yeah, I
I
remember.
brought Rich in, got him in on it, and everything was going great. And then, like every good story, a woman eventually came into the picture and distorted shit. But what's funny is, I hear a lot of the girls today talk about like, oh, gamer girls trying to get a chance. Nitin will tell you, my girlfriend at the time bodied motherfuckers.
Oh yeah, what was she? She was great at Tekken, right?
No, in Mortal Kombat.
No, there was one game she was great at that no one was good at too. What was that game? She was good at another game as well because
And Tekken.
yeah, she used to kick ass in Tekken. I remember that because like she went while she was waiting to play MK, she played Tekken because it was so hard to get on the machine.
Jimmy,
Remember?
what made you get Beasterizer for the East Brunswick Mall Arcade?
I just
Most
liked
people
it.
don't know this. Beasterizer is what Bloody Roar was in the arcade before it was
Yes.
Bloody Roar on the console. And I go to East Brunswick Arcade and I see Beasterizer. You were the
I
only
just like
arcade around that had it. What made you get that game?
I just follow the trends of fighting games, and I said, I'm willing to try new things. And 3D at the time was the flavor of the month. You had Tekken 3, I think, at the time.
Yeah.
Had come out. Yeah, it was up to Tekken 3 at that point. And the good old classic guys.
God,
And,
I don't know why you love that game so much.
I just like the Final Fantasy characters. That's it. And it was the beginning of the end for it, because again, all these cool Final Fantasy characters time released, and it wasn't like
Tekken was
Tekken
time
was.
release also.
I'm saying it wasn't like Tekken time release because they kind of came out pretty quick. This shit made you wait forever. And they never gave you. Eventually, they gave me a set of ROM patch that released it all right away.
Yeah.
But Beast of Riser was a fun game. I liked my long.
So if you guys were to sum up, because I don't want to run too long here, the arcade era for you guys, the Mortal Kombat era in the arcade, give me some final thoughts.
All right, this is what I know. I brought this up a million times. The way that we describe this stuff to you is I think we had the first like competitive scene Period. It was us. We weren't, of course, we weren't the only people on the fucking planet, but to this day, with where the FGC is today, what they do today, tournaments, online stuff, whatever, Capcom Cups, whatever is formulated today, I do believe we had a, whether it was, we had a hand in it somehow. That's what basically what I wanted to say today is we were the first. So all the stuff that I see today and that we see today, we did it already. We've done. That's why we stop. So that's what I. This is exactly what I wanted to say today. Just the stuff that's going on today is just in a bigger form of what we did back in the day. So
But you agree it's harder to win today than it ever was, obviously.
Yeah. Yeah.
they could sit. They didn't have to pay to play. They
Listen,
don't have to pay to play, dude. I paid to learn.
But the pool is bigger, the talent is better.
Of course it is.
I mean, remember, we only had to choose between 12 moves. They got to choose between 36 and 3 different variations.
Motherfuckers, we paid. We paid to learn those combos. We paid money. That's the thing. None of these kids, I am not putting anyone down. I am not better than anybody. I suck at all the new games. They have fucking training mode. We had to spend $30 to fucking play, to figure out moves. We had to put 2 characters and we had to figure out frame data. What the frick is frame data? We didn't know anything. We had to pay to play. So if they had to pay to play today, are they going to be so good? I don't know. This is what I'm trying to say.
That's why you can never argue the old versus new because again, you can't put a guy in a time machine and zap him back to our era. It's not possible.
Right.
You can't take one of the guys that were good back then and zap him forward if he's married with 9 kids.
Right.
And priorities have changed.
But we are so overlooked from what we've done, and we're not trying to get any credit for it. We never said that we're better than any player nowadays. But I think what we did back then was totally nobody even knows about it. It's just sad that nobody knows. And I just wanted to get that out there. We did this. We've done this. We created. We laid the foundation. We paved the road.
The best way I could sum it up is this. Mortal Kombat, the game, was conceived in Chicago, but it was birthed, born, and raised in New York City.
Definitely. Until someone says otherwise.
It was made there, without a doubt. It's where, Boone and Tobias came up with this whole thing. But the scene itself, the propelling of the game, was New York based, whether it was from us in the FGC early infancy stage or Acclaim putting it out to the home systems. Yep. It's New York born and raised.
Nick, did you ever meet Boone or Tobias?
I only saw them from a distance. I was never the guy who cared about that. I always wanted to play. Jimmy and all the other guys, they into not saying that they wanted to meet the owner. They kind of knew of him much more than I did. So I never got to meet him face to face. He's in the same room with me. I've seen him, but I never got to meet him.
Tobias,
you didn't run up to him and go, "Oh my God."
Tobias, if you ever listen to this, if you look at the MK story mode, they're in desperate need of you back. They're desperate need of you back, Tobias.
That ain't a joke either.
No, it's not a joke, actually. Because it's, MK9 and then X, and now we reboot it again. So one was a reboot, then we have another reboot, and it's just now
You've always been the master build and all that stuff. We don't even know past all
the next one is a reboot again, and I'm just like,
It's like living the movie Groundhog's Day with Mortal Kombat now.
Yeah, pretty much.
Well, I appreciate you guys coming on. It's always good to hear stories from the arcade. Again, this is just stuff that gets lost in history. You hear so much about the arcade era, but it's kind of like a mystery. So many people today were never there, and a lot of people from that era just kind of like went their separate way, and they're not really interested in coming back into the fighting game world or even talking about it.
There's
So,
only one thing that irks me, and it's not directed to any specific person. Don't tell me you were there in the days, and then I do the math on you, and I go, you were 6 years old. You weren't there. We would go to the arcade and then go to the bodega that was open 24 hours and drink legally while playing.
Right.
We weren't teens. So Mortal Kombat. In 1992, I was already 22.
I wasn't 21 until MK4, so
Right.
I would put like a vodka in a Snapple bottle and go to the.
And the thing is, though, also Jimmy's not bringing this up too. I brought it up already. Money. We paid. It means everything. It means everything. You have to have the money.
Do you know how bad we were? We would go and play people and split, because I had no money at the time. Nitin was, all right, let me get the second round. All right, Jimmy, but you got to lose it so I could beat him the third round.
Yeah, because I paid for the game. That's the thing. That's the thing. Like, we'd get rounds.
No, there was that. People used to get pissed at that, by the way. People used to hate when you did that to them. I just want to say that myself and my friends would split rounds, and people would absolutely hate it.
You know why we did it? We did it for practice.
Yeah, it's save money.
Only reason, because you couldn't get some people to play you. And again, I know we can continue this forever. We're gonna cut it short. I used to play left side. Nobody played left side. Why the hell do you think I played left side? Because I wouldn't get games otherwise. They'd wait for the right side, and no one played left side. No one played player one. Nobody.
That's only happened when one side was bad before the arcade fixed it.
No. Back in the day, they would take the right side always. It's easier to strategically stand and bump somebody on the right side. That's another thing too. You'd play people who would take like the whole space.
Yeah, that's true. I hated that. That's true. They would take the whole. You have to start. Yeah, and we would start like fighting, like pushing each other on that.
Right, and what I would do is I would go above and beyond. I would master playing on the left side, standing I'm a small guy, standing on 1/4 of the cabinet while you big motherfuckers could have 3/4 of it, and I would still win. And I would play low tier on purpose. Why do you think I play low tier? I didn't know there was low tier. I just played guys that if someone saw you playing Cabal back in the day in UMK3, they wouldn't play you. So I'd play fucking Cyrex. Okay, we could beat this guy. Otherwise, they're not going to give you the practice that you need.
Give him 2 rounds. Give him 2 rounds with set up bomb track, but not finish it.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like where you just get matched up and ranked and there's an automatic matchmaking system. It was people would come in, they're like, I'm not going to play this guy. I'm not going to play that guy.
You had to make this. You had to know the strategy of playing human beings one-on-one. Ain't no online underwear warriors, man. Mm-hmm. You're playing the guys right there. You have to figure out how to get the guy to keep playing so you can keep getting practice, so you can keep getting better. You can't beat you can't play the computer because that's a waste of time.
And there's no online to play somebody. That's another thing that I think gets lost. You had to have someone else to play.
Yeah, training mode. Come on, I mean, come on. This stuff needs to be brought up.
You know what training? You know what original training mode was for me? Because nobody in Acclaim wanted to play me. Playing 2-player sides, learning how to jump with the second player.
Oh yeah.
With a move and practice punching it out of the air.
Yeah, we used to do that as well. I remember that. Jimmy's the one who started that, and Jimmy's the only person that I know who beat somebody with one hand.
My diner by me, the Somerset Diner. The guy would see me play like mess around with some of the arcade games, and he was like, "Oh, you play a lot of these games?" I was like, "Yeah, I'm actually really good at some of the fighting games." And he told me, "Well, what fighting game do you want?" I'll get it in here. And when it was MK2, it was 2, and then with 3, and I would go there late at night and just put money in both sides. There'd be nobody there to play, and I would just stay open 24 hours. I could play all night, and I would literally spend $20-$30 with both sides practicing stuff.
Yeah, and that's what you had to do back then.
Always make it go 4 rounds.
We had to make it last. I mean, because You have to learn how to play. You have to
No,
pay to play.
At the arcades, what they started doing, like at Menlo, they would take some of the better players and give us free tokens. So basically, the thing was, we'll give the better players, the top players here, the free games. They'll kick the crap out of everybody and have them put more money in the machine. Keep the money flowing. So that's what we would do at Menlo. So a lot of my games there were, if there was like a big crowd, which was most of the time, they would just give me, $10, $20 in tokens,
Menlo's where I met Czech.
Oh yes, Czech used to go to all of the arcades too, though.
Yeah.
I met him there, and it took him reminding me because again, I met a lot of. That's why, like when you talk about the ECT story, and when you turned around to me and you were like, "Oh my God, he's back!" And Matt's like, "Who the fuck is he?"
Yeah, and I told. I mean, you can end this soon, whatever. But I told the entire FGC MK guys before MK9 that nobody is ready for Jimmy to come back. And they're like, "Who the fuck are you talking about?"
They weren't. Yeah, almost nobody knew who he was. Yeah, that's true.
I'm like, "You'll see."
He's like, "I'm gonna introduce you to Tom Brady." I'm like, "Who?"
Yeah.
Tom Brady. And then you come walking down the hall.
I was like, I know this guy. This is James Fink.
And I told everybody in the MK scene, everybody. I said, no one's gonna be ready for this. You guys just don't know what's gonna hit you. This guy, Jimmy started OBS in '92. He's been wanting to do this shit since '92, and now he's doing it. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Like this is our characters were created from the way we played, and just being like friends with each other. And all this, I'm glad we got to say this stuff today. This is what I've wanted to say this stuff for many years. So,
well, thanks for having me. Thanks for coming on. I certainly appreciate it, and that's one of the things I like doing these podcasts for. A lot of the history kind of gets lost, Like it's easy to talk about the actual making of the game, but a lot of the game happened more so in the arcades, which is where the game grew. The game was made in a business, but it lived in the local scenes. That's really what made MK what it was. And it's and America will always be founded on Mortal Kombat and Street Fighter. They're the two biggest fighting games of all time. I used to joke around and say people love MK and Street Fighter. People in America go to sleep with scorpion sheets and Chun-Li pillows. And that's pretty much the way it was. So thanks for joining me, guys. I really appreciate it.
All right, we'll talk soon.